Jeff, any announcements?
No announcements, Mayor, but we do have a couple groups tonight here with us. First, I'll have Kevin introduce the DTE guys, RES, from our new RNG partnership. Just for a little update, I know I see Charles there. That's the only one I know back there. So, Charles, if you'd like, would you like to come up and address the city and whom you got with you?
Yeah, I'll introduce him.
Okay.
So I'm Charles McNew. I'm the Regional Operations Manager for DT Biomass Energy. This is Nick Dietrich. Nick Dietrich is environmental engineer with us. I take care of a lot of our projects. I want to provide a brief update on how the plant's going. We are still in commissioning phase. The majority of the construction is done. As some of you probably know, we still have a building to erect for the office. There is some ongoing work there. We have been in operation processing gas and spinning the turbine to create electricity. We have not yet got to the point where it can inject RNG, so that ongoing commissioning will probably take place through the month of January, probably some into February. So we're getting pretty close there. Plant's operating well. There's still some obstacles to overcome. Obviously with this cold snap, created some more obstacles that we're still overcoming. But overall the plant's going well. I know there are some questions about the flare and how often that's lit. Right now through the commissioning process, in order to get the gas in spec and commission all the products, you have to compress it, put it through the process, and through that time period, the flare will operate a lot more than normal. So right now it's lit almost all the time. In some cases it's lit for 24 hours at a time. Sometimes it's shorter than that if we're able to use all that turbine. Eventually, that will be reduced significantly. So if you see that flare lit, that essentially means we're not making money. So we want to make money as much as possible, and so does the city, I'm sure. So eventually, our runtime will be around 95%, and that flare would only be lit for the remaining 5%. So that should definitely help with any concerns for light from that. So, any questions about the overall project?
So, Charles, just so that we can reiterate, I'm not sure, especially the new council people, but once the plant is commissioned and you start pumping the RNG, the clean RNG in the pipeline, that's kind of when the royalty back to us meter starts. So,
correct. So the royalties, expect that sometime in the first quarter towards spring. We're getting pretty close.
Okay.
So the tower itself, it's not going away, because some people are asking once your plant's full up in production, you just take the tower down.
The flare stack will be there, and that's there for any time that we're processing gas and for some reason it's not being put into a pipeline or powering a turbine, then it has to be flared.
Now, you still realize that the plant is required because the original plan was to have 1, 2, 3 rows of trees in front of the plant so that it was protected. So they're gonna have to erect some kind of covering, and it's gotta be high enough to cover the lights so that when you're coming down the road, the building and the lights will be covered.
Yeah. So
and they're looking at different kind of covers. It may be vinyl, mossy oak or whatever.
Yeah, there's some ongoing conversations trying to figure out what's going to be best for the city, what's going to work for us that we can erect there within the property that we have, because there's not a lot of space there to help with that visibility as well.
And I said they were supposed to keep the 3 lines of trees, but their plant footprint grew, and therefore they had to come almost right to the fence line. So.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we can't sacrifice there is the path for the fire department. Correct. A certain width there that we have to maintain.
I suggested golf course netting with fabric in the netting. So that's a really good. They have it with vents in it so that it isn't pulled down by the wind. A lot of elite country clubs use that on their driving ranges, and does a pretty good job of sheltering. So I provided a couple of vendors that I know of. So that's not on us, that's on them. They're working directly with them, but we get to view it and agree to it before it's erected, or we just want to make sure that it's covered up so the lights aren't shining in everybody's eyes as they go down Sibley Road and you don't see the whole plant. You can't cover a 75-foot scrubbing tower,
not quite.
but at least you can cover most of the plant. So that's kind of what the idea will be.
So what kind of sounds or can we expect from the plant?
So right now, the sounds that you're hearing is the sounds that will be there. So
Mhm.
all the rotating pieces of equipment are in current operations. There is some redundancy there, so where we need one, we might have two. That way we're more reliable.
Mhm.
So at sometimes there could be some additional noise there, but really what you hear now is what it's gonna be.
Does the energy plant we have there, the two turbines,
Yeah.
do those go away at any point?
No, so the turbines will remain there, but rather than being able to run on landfill gas, they will now be able to run on RNG, which RNG is just renewable natural gas, just methane. So after we take it from the landfill, it goes through our process, cleans it all up. If there's demands on the grid that the utility says, hey, we want you to provide electricity, then we have the ability to revert the RNG from the pipeline and put it to the turbine, to spin the turbine to generate electricity. So those will remain there, and we did just, did some upgrades to those.
So Charles, I know, especially when I started with the landfill, Chris Anglin was able to give me a book because you guys actually purchased a study on noise and decibels.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to be within the city ordinance of decibels. At some time, will you do the same study on this plant so that it's all documented?
So there already has been some sound studies done.
Okay.
I could see what I could do about providing that for you.
All I want to make sure is that it fits within our city ordinance, that the decibels are underneath our allowed limit, that's all.
Okay.
Now, to the environmental engineer, I know there was also some talk, I received some calls at the city manager's office about the flare. It's dangerous, you know, what's it doing to our bodies that the flare is going all the time? Well, I know when I was at the landfill, the flare was going all the time too. And in essence, you're burning methane, which is a lot cleaner than if that gas was leaking from the hill up into the air, right?
Sure, sure, yeah, and what's being burned in our flare is the same thing, like you said, that has been being burned in the flares that the city owns there. It's actually a little cleaner. Before we burn it, we're removing the sulfur, so it's actually even better. You know, it's a little cleaner than what has historically been burned there. But just like our original plant that's all gone through, we've done air quality modeling to meet the state standards. We've looked at impacts beyond our fence line, how that affects people's health, and it's well within all those standards and guidelines. So we've gotten all the permits and approvals needed for that.
Yeah, so I think one important factor to, reiterate is that this process is cleaner to the environment than the old process and the electrical turbine plant, so.
Mhm.
This is even, and to get the permit from the state, it's not that you send in a sheet of paper and they stamp it. There's studies and there's testing, and it's a more stringent regulation than the old way that was passed way back when, so. Okay, any other questions for,
Just out of curiosity, during the first and second quarter, I know it's hard to say, but do you have a ballpark estimate on what the royalties would be paid to the city?
I don't know off the top of my head.
and to council and everybody, I can't budget for that right now in my
Yeah.
next year budget. The following budget I can, because we'll get some kind of a pattern
Yeah,
on
that's
what
what I
we're
was
getting
hoping
by quarter, but this next budget coming up, I'm gonna leave that line blank, even though we're gonna have better than blank,
Yeah,
okay?
that's what I was hoping for.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, before we get into the agenda items, we do have some individuals from the Riverview Crossing. I know there was a lot of, council received a lot of calls regarding heat and upgrades to the boiler system and a whole bit. Dave, I don't know who's here from Riverview Crossing, so if you could raise your hand.
Yeah.
Great, you can come on up and,
You want us to come over there?
yeah, come on up.
There's a few of us here,
Yeah,
but Tony and I are gonna be the ones.
okay, well, come on up. Introduce yourself and.
Sure. My name's Tony. I'm oversee the HVAC for Pepper Pike's Michigan portfolio.
Okay,
So my name is Steve Craver. I'm the senior project manager for Pepper Pike Capital Partners here in the Downriver market.
Okay.
I handle both Green Trees and Riverview.
okay,
So we acquired Riverview Crossings back in April of 2022. So we've owned it about 20 months. In that 20-month time frame, we've made a lot of improvements to the property, which many of you, I hope, have seen, including the painting, the asphalt, and renovations. In addition to that, we've gone through a lot of inspections with the city. I think we're doing pretty well there as well. So, but to the point of this conversation is the heat. So we've had some pretty cold temperatures, so I'm sure heat's a concern to everyone. Since we acquired the property, we have spent $521,543 on the boiler systems, on the HVAC systems there at the property. The problems that we have aren't recurring, but instead, we fix something and then something else breaks. The property's about 50 years old. A lot of that equipment is older. We have replaced some equipment, and we've replaced a number of pipes and stuff. So we're constantly chasing it to make sure that we're getting everything fixed. You know, as of yesterday, we had heat in every unit, and then come this morning, we've lost heat in a few units. We have Detroit Boiler out there right now fixing some of this. We've engaged Detroit Boiler, Anytime Plumbing, DNS Mechanical Services, all have done work for us on this project. So we're continuing to chase it. As soon as we know there's not a heat, we get in there. We just went to Home Depot and bought another 34 space heaters, in addition to the 100 we've already purchased, trying to provide that to the residents while we're fixing their problems.
What's the ETA on the recent,
Sure. So, Tony will probably be able to speak better to that. Sometimes we get in there as an easy one.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, an hour.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're chasing it, or we fix it, and then the next day a pipe breaks or something to that point. So it's all very dependent on that particular one.
Yeah, we had everything, we had Detroit Boiler come through and address all the issues that we had diagnosed and seen, and they had just finished that. It was about 40 days and roughly $150,000. They completed that along with the CSD1 inspections and all safety, as well as permits for operating and installation of the boilers. They completed that task, and then we were hit with the sub-zero weather. We had a couple pipes burst, however, majority of them were in vacant units. We have restored water, and we have heat. We had 2 units that were affected by the water and the no heat, however, they were relocated and they have heat. Like Steve said yesterday, every single resident had heat and water. The only units that don't have heat and water right now are vacant. Since you know, kind of give you a brief history, you know, what we purchased, what we've done, where we are now. When we first initially purchased the property, we had 46 mech rooms. Each mech room houses 1 boiler that services 6 units, and then there's 2 hot water tanks. So 46 mech rooms, 46 boilers, and we have 96 hot water tanks. When we first purchased the property, we were missing 40 hot water tanks. We immediately were proactive about that, not only just putting in the hot water tanks, but assuring that all the corresponding pipe work and shutoffs were up to code and up to date. As we progressed through the water, we then came into cold temperatures and were kind of blindsided by the situation of the boilers. However, the moment that anything broke down, we were incredibly proactive about it, and we didn't just replace, you know, one part. If I saw that a certain pump was bad or one item was bad in a building, even though there's multiple mech rooms, we just did a sweep and would replace everything, assuming that everything was installed at the same time frame. Since Detroit Boiler's been working, we have about 270 units there. We've replaced over 1/3 of the individual zone valves, fulfilling the control for heat for all the residents, as well as almost every single thermostat. In the mech rooms themselves, the air remediation, expansion tanks, circular pumps, and again, all the safeties, as well as the exhaust pipes have all been addressed. Anything that has happened in the last 5 days is just because of low temperatures and poor installation on the mech rooms, but again, nothing was affected for the residents themselves. Considering where we were when we first purchased the property, we had about, I would say, just about 4 months ago, we probably had 125 to 130 no heats. So just in that time frame, we've went ahead and accomplished all of that with the help of Detroit Boiler and on-site maintenance. I believe that the property and whoever was running it before us was maybe a little bit reactive and not proactive. I can confidently say that the company that I work for and the guys that I'm sending out there to do the repairs are up to code, and it's more proactive. Even if it looks a little bit old and it's still functional, we just take the opportunity while the system is open to go ahead and replace everything at that time. And it's basically been about a 20-month of catch-up of just the property not being taken care of several years before that. But I feel confident that this being the second winter that we had it, I don't even think you would know or hear anything from us next winter. The amount of things that have been replaced, probably a good 85% of all boiler and hot water components.
Any questions from council? Dave?
So, got a question about a few things. All right, so you run crossings and you run green trees.
Correct.
You say 85% of all heating components have basically been replaced, correct?
Absolutely, at Riverview Crossings,
Okay, that's, that,
not at Green Trees.
okay, so, couple issues here, and I apologize, I'm trying to take notes as I'm doing this. So I believe it was Saturday, I had to contact all of council. Building 2, we had a resident who unfortunately is, I believe it was Albanian? Thank you. So I was dealing with her translator, going back and forth. I contacted the property myself, I was told, we'll call you back in 1 hour. I called back 30 minutes later and said, hey, listen, it'll be quicker if you guys contact the translator instead of, playing telephone.
Sure.
I never received a phone call back, they never took the interpreter's phone number, I never got an update. Today, just before this meeting, and that was at Riverview Crossings.
Mm-hmm.
Just prior to me coming, I'm dealing with another resident over at Green Trees who didn't have heat, and now that they have heat, the temperature in their apartment is 95 degrees. Dave, you probably just got the phone call because as I was trying to get ready for here, I was giving them your
Is
phone
that
number.
building 22, 101, do you know? Did
So-
they give you an address?
At Crossings, it was building 2, and I'll be honest,
believe
because
it
I
was
was rushing to get here.
I believe it was 23201.
At Crossings.
At
At
Crossings.
Crossings, I did
Green
not get the
Trees was
building.
22, because we did just fix the heat for them
Yeah,
a
and
few
that-
hours ago.
Okay, and she said it was, I mean, this is less than an hour ago, said it was 95 degrees. She's on the first floor, she didn't feel safe opening the window. My main issue is that, obviously with the cold snap, I understand there's gonna be issues, I totally understand that. But the amount of phone calls we're receiving, and look, I know you guys have put a lot of money in the property, I appreciate that. But with this kind of cold, we can't have residents without heat.
Correct.
One of the issues that I have, and look, I commend you guys for buying 34 more space heaters. But handing someone a space heater and then plugging it in and then losing power isn't doing them any favors. So we need to make sure that we're addressing both issues, not only the fact that we don't have supplied heat, but if we're trying to get them heat, make sure that the power is stable, that it's not gonna kick out their circuit every
Sure,
time they
sure.
try to plug it in. I had actually offered to go to Lowe's and buy a few heaters myself, but that was the main complaint. Yes, we have no heat, but if we plug in the heater, then we lose power to the apartment. So are you addressing that as well, or?
I can definitely address that with the on-site maintenance, just to tell them which outlet to properly plug it into. There are plenty 20 amp breakers and circuits in their units. I imagine that they were just plugging into a 15 amp, but there is no issue that multiple plugs in every single unit can handle the space heaters. I've done load tests and everything on that, so
Okay.
I did run into this issue. However, the communication maybe was not present as to, GFI only, or these are 20 amp plugs. But the circuitry itself is not an issue.
Okay, so that would lead me to my next question. So you're supplying space heater to the residents in these apartments? Is that enough to heat the entire apartment? One space heater, and if
Well,
not,
we make available 2 to 3 as needed to heat the whole place.
and you have enough outlets that can power those?
Yes.
Without-
Yes.
Okay,
If you're putting multiple heaters on one 20 amp, then
Yeah, I can
well,
understand that.
But the way that the circuits are run, they have a dedicated 20 amp in each bedroom and the living room and the kitchen.
Okay.
So in all reality, we probably put 4 inside there.
I would strongly encourage maintenance explaining to the residents who live there what outlets, and look, I didn't realize that we had residents who didn't speak English.
Sure.
So I would strongly advise maintenance getting with residents of those apartments and saying, you can plug this in here and nothing else, and, keep the entire
Sure.
apartment warm.
Absolutely.
That's
Good point.
I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and I hate to hammer you guys over all this, but obviously, it starts to get dangerous,
Sure.
and,
Sure.
I think we're on the same page as you, to where when we are making those decisions, we want to make sure it's done right. And
Yeah.
at times, we could necessarily go down another route in order to rush the fix and, get that space heater out of there, just get the heat on. But we're really just trying to make long-term moves so we're not caught like this again.
Absolutely, I understand that.
But as for the amount of space heaters that have been passed out, I can confidently say, it's been in the decline. We were passing them out like candy when we first initially had Detroit Boiler on site, but now, less than 5, I would imagine, at this point. And even at this case, most of the time I let them hold on to the space heater, even if their heat's been fixed, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah, and my relationship with Home Depot, they got a new shipment of space heaters in, so we went and bought them all. So we've got 34 that we just picked up a few hours ago that are on the ready as
So,
needed.
so the issue in the building 2 department that I brought up, because I've yet to receive a phone call, that was.
In
taken care
building
of?
2, I wasn't aware that anybody had contacted any higher up outside of maintenance. However, when I arrived on site Monday morning, you know, I touched base with on-site staff, and they automatically directed me that, you know, this issue needs to be taken care of. And I believe it was building 2, corridor 3, apartment 201. I have before and after photos. I actually just redid all the copper and the zone valve. Everything is brand new. I'll get 145 degrees out of it on the entire loop. And I did that before 9 a.m. Monday. I made sure and confirmed that I still had heat before I left site 5 p.m. Monday.
Okay, that's, as long as the issue's taken care of.
Our
that's-
regional,
that's
our
my-
regional manager who's here was on the phone with that lady or the translator, I think at 8 o'clock on Sunday. We were all made aware of the issue, and then on Monday morning he came in. And
Yeah, just as long as you guys are following up with the residents who have issues,
Yeah.
because not hearing back, then I'm,
Sure, sure.
you know what I mean? So, no, I appreciate it, guys, I really do. Just please, please, please stay on top of it. So, that's all I had.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Brian.
Brian?
Go ahead, Dean. Is there a way we can have them communicate directly with you instead of through the council?
Absolutely.
It's
So
not really our job to get involved in this.
You're absolutely correct, sir.
We accept a lot of liability when we get involved in this.
We have a process where they would submit for a work order when these things go down. So I do notice that they are contacting some
How
of
about
you
an
guys
emergency number?
directly. There is an emergency number as well.
Can you provide the emergency number? So when he's called, just say, call the emergency number.
Absolutely.
Because we really shouldn't be involved in this.
No, yeah, absolutely can get you that.
Yeah,
Who
am I
usually feels,
correct,
does someone in
Attorney?
particular field those
Yes.
calls when they come in?
Well,
They
They go-
email us, or they call ourselves.
Yeah.
They call yourselves?
Or
Yeah,
for the
email
ones that
us.
they have, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think that Dean's point is, to me, it makes more sense, because we need to document all this. And it should be done through the building department. This is where, if they call your emergency number, you guys handle it. If they don't, then they should be calling the building department. We need to keep track of which units they are. I mean, and I know it's, you know, Dave, you know, we appreciate all you've done, but I mean, the correct way, and I'll say the more way where it gives us some legal grounds if things aren't followed. You know, it's, we don't have to keep funding through a council person where we can go to the building department and, you know, because that's where the enforcement really is.
Sure.
I mean, say, I can't make anybody do anything, but if Dave says there's a safety concern there, or the fire says there's a problem there, then we have some meat on the bone to do whatever we need to do.
Yeah. And Jen does call me a lot to let me know when these things
I heard you guys are new best friends.
Yeah.
Brian?
You mentioned that the heaters trip the circuits. Are the breakers in the individual apartments, or?
They are.
So they're able to go and reset it and
Yes,
don't
sir.
have to wait for maintenance to come
Correct.
reset it?
I try not to encourage residents to do that. However, if they elect it themselves, then that's fine. But I make it a habit, we never tell the residents to go open the breaker panel and to manually flip it over. I will tell them to go ahead and reset a GFI, but for breaker panel liability issues, I'd much rather just have a maintenance tech go out there.
And just how readily and quickly
All
you
of it.
answer those calls?
Our maintenance, all of our maintenance staff lives on site. We have a 24/7 number. They get the call, it goes to a call center, and the call center, answering service, they decide, they have a filter of whether it's an emergency or not, then they go ahead and contact the on-site maintenance. I would say we have a less than 30-minute response time, and me personally, if my guys took any longer than 30 minutes to at least get out there and diagnose it for a no heat, I'd probably be having pretty strong words with them the next morning. I feel confident that our response time is very good. As for the calls that you guys receive, part of it, I truly believe that when we're made aware that they don't have heat, we explain to them, hey, either we have a contractor coming, maintenance is coming to fix it, or we've already diagnosed it and we have parts that are waiting. I think that they are just not happy with that answer, and that's the involvement of you.
Is there
everybody's
a
been-
process that Pepper Pike has in place for, let's say, a resident, you know, just go right, I think what you were dealing with is, you have a young family there, and they're not gonna have heat overnight. Does management have an ability to move them to either a place that has heat or provide them some type of living space.
They all get a space heater immediately, and everyone has heat. The problem, and I'm the owner, the problem we have is that 37 people last month didn't pay rent because they didn't have heat, and we had 5 or 6 people that didn't have heat overnight. So I think it's rampant that if you say you don't have heat, all of a sudden you don't have to pay rent, which is not accurate. So there is some of that going on. I'm not saying that's all of the case, but I'll tell you 37 people last year didn't pay rent, or last month, because they didn't have heat, and there was very, very, very few people that didn't have the centralized heat overnight, and every single person has space heaters and the ability to keep their well above 70 degrees. So I think there's other things going on as well.
Thank
Your
you.
Honor, that's exactly my concern for us as we get involved. Mike, if we get involved in this, we're testifying in court, am I correct? If they
You
start
could
suing?
potentially, yeah, if somebody's calling council people, they could be a witness, yes.
And if we take action and provide heaters ourselves, we're taking on liability ourselves by doing that. Am
I don't
We-
think we're
we own a
taking on
pile
any
of
liability,
heaters.
but, you know, these are civil matters. The landlords have rights, the tenants have rights. The city is involved through the building department to regulate, and you could close the place down, you could take their license away, you know, not that they wanna do that, but, you know, the city has some leverage here. But, yeah, if there is enforcement matters, then building department would have the code officers write tickets, and then we would deal with it through the court. And then, yeah, anybody has direct knowledge can be called as a witness by either the city or the tenant, for that matter.
Not Chief, do you mind?
Go ahead.
Chief, if we have someone that's freezing, they don't respond, all that good stuff, are we prepared to help them out?
Yes,
Okay, so they should refer to the police department if they have that, or the fire department?
they can call our office and we'll try to find them arrangements to
So
have.
we don't really need to get involved, we tell them, just call the police or fire department,
Yeah,
correct?
we'll try to find them a place to stay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Your Honor, we did have a mother and a daughter, and they spent the night here in our warming center, in our senior center area, and then the next day, the chief found them a place to stay, and police actually drove them to that place to stay, so.
I believe that's the one we're referring to as well,
Uh-huh.
that is now has the heat.
So-
in Building 2.
Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Mayor, since we have the opportunity, could I ask some questions about the lighting at Green Trees?
The lighting?
Yes.
Is the Green Trees one of theirs, one of your
It
units?
is, sir.
Go ahead.
So I've spoken to some residents that have concerns about the lighting, not only on the front of the buildings, but in the parking lots for security concerns. This is going back to when we had maintenance of contractors coming in and out all throughout the times of the day. So for safety purposes, the sodium lamps on the front of the buildings, I noticed myself, we're not turning on, there's not any lighting over the parking lot. We've had residents say they have safety concerns about going out to their vehicles, and we've also had reports of catalytic converters being stolen because the opportunity's there because of the darkness. Is there anything done or any complaints that will be addressed for that?
I'm not aware of any current complaints from residents, but it sounds like there has been some concern. Normally, when we purchase a project, we own that project a little bit over a year, we do a lighting audit, so we'll go there at night and see which lights are working and not working. I can't tell you the date that's been completed, so that's, because of you raising up here, we will do that lighting audit and then get those lights back on.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
we did, at Riverview, we had a number of lights out that were out as well, and we went and did lighting audit, same thing, and then we turned a bunch of those lights on. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, but
Okay.
But
You're
yeah,
looking
we can
into
do
it.
that.
I appreciate that.
no problem.
Anything else?
All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you
Thanks for
coming
having
in.
us.
Yep.
It's a privilege to be part of the community here,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hey Craig, just so you know, my middle son's best friend is Albanian and they speak fluent. We got a grandma, we got a mom.
Oh, that'd be,
So anytime you're having some issues, let me know. And
I resorted to Google Translate, I'll be honest with you, I'm like, okay.
yeah,
no.
my son's learning Albanian just for.
All right, 2.1.
Yeah.
Discuss the, oh, that's your part, sorry.
Oh.
I don't want to take your job
Just
away.
sit back. Discuss grant-funded, police academy sponsorship. Chief, wanna come on up?
Tracy, why don't you come on up? Oh, she's here. Tracy's right here. Come on up, though. This, Tracy and Chief worked on this. They found this opportunity, so we wanted to bring it forward for consideration. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Jeff. You know, there's no surprise that we're having the problem, United States hiring people and retaining people. So there's 3 ways to hire people. They go through the academy, and then we certify them as law enforcement officers, or we hire somebody that's a lateral transfer that's already a police officer. And then the 3rd way is you sponsor somebody through the academy. That's the part that we're not doing. And that's the part that Tracy and I got together to see what we could do to help recruit. There's a grant that the state has put out. They put it out last year. We haven't needed it because we've been fully staffed, but we're right now at 21. We need to, I'm sorry, we're at, 21, we need to be at 23. So our idea is to advertise to people that want to go to the academy that we would sponsor them. Now, what does that mean? That means that we would utilize that money to pay them a salary of $19 an hour through the academy, and then it would pay for the academy. So it would be no cost to the city at all, but the only problem we would have is we wouldn't get that candidate for another 4 or 5 months. So there lies the problem. So when you hire somebody, it's immediate. If you use it like this, you're gonna be waiting 4 or 5 months. But I think it's a great program. It, like I said, it just came out last year, and it was I think 30 million.
It's 30 million. It was supposed
30
to be
million.
a 4-year grant option. And about a year into it, they're about halfway through their funding. So the applicant would be approved for the grant prior to going to the academy, and it's $24,000 per recruit.
So we just wanted your
That'd be
thoughts
covered
on
by the grant.
That's
But-
correct.
So, but our cost would be the $19 an hour, and we, so we not.
The $24,000 can be utilized to pay for the academy,
Uh-huh.
and also wages and salary
Oh.
while they're in the academy, so that's all covered by the grant. And it also covers some additional supplemental things, some uniforms or clothing while they're in the academy and some of those things. So based off our calculation, we're well under the $24,000. So it'd be fully funded by the grant.
Where's the catch?
Yeah.
There isn't.
I have a
There
question.
isn't.
Yeah.
The risk would be,
If they didn't
if we go
complete?
through the process and they're not approved, but then
Mm.
it was just our time in recruiting and interviewing. Also, we cannot have them sign any type of a contract.
Mm.
So, if they get out of the academy, they could possibly be recruited by another
Oh.
agency.
Uh-huh.
But again, the city didn't pay for the academy, it was all through the grant, we don't have to return any of the money. Also, if they do not finish the academy, they don't successfully complete the academy, the grant money shuts off. So we don't have to pay for that up to that point anyway.
I think DPD did that in the past, and we're trying to have them sign something that was unconstitutional, and
Can't do that.
can't
Yeah.
do that,
Mm-mm.
so then it's just a wash
They're
at that
free to
point.
go once they leave the academy to any agency.
But
they
it's
would
no
go
cost to us, just,
Yeah.
so.
Just time.
Your Honor, I think what they would do in their screening process is try to find a candidate that has some kind of attachment to Riverview, either local, somebody that lived in the city, knows the city. I think that's the best policy, and I think that's what they mentioned to me, that they'd want to try to find a pro Riverview person that, would go to the academy and take value in us sponsoring them and feel like they not owe us something, but want to be involved with us in their career.
Is that to the academy of choice, or is there certain?
That's a good question. There's 3 academies in the area that we were looking at. We were gonna try to just narrow it down just to the one, which is the Wayne County Regional, which is Schoolcraft College.
And so they still need an associate, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
So they would need that.
So they would
and
need
then
the
come to us.
associate's degree, they would have to have their MCOLS physical agility and their MCOLS written exam. So those 3 requirements in order to get in front of the oral board here to be eligible to apply for the grant to go to the academy.
So the academy would be the last step in the, sounds like a
Be the last
multi-step
step,
process.
approximately 16 weeks, they would be in the academy, and then they would be sworn in as a Riverview officer after graduating from the academy.
So we're looking to put this on the next agenda.
No.
No?
No, it doesn't need to be voted on, this was brought to the
Oh,
council.
perfect.
No,
Uh-huh.
just for informational, we didn't want any of you to see the posting change or to hear that we're now sponsoring recruits to the academy and not have an understanding, but there's nothing, I don't think that has to be
Uh-huh.
voted on.
No, we looked at the contracts. There's no contractual issues here at all.
Oh, very good.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for your
Thank
time, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Find more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, 2.2, discuss proposed 2024 special assessment for police protection, public safety. Jeff?
Your Honor, last year, I can't remember the exact date, but it was in the fall, that you asked me to pump the brakes for the 4 mills, 10-year public safety millage. Went back through the numbers, and it's nice to say that, 1, because we didn't spend any money on capital improvements. 2, the landfill revenue was greater than expected so far this year. It's to actual budget. Kevin and his team is doing a good job. We got it started and rolling. And 3rd, we did use some ARPA funds to pay down some of the public safety expenses. So therefore, can't count on the royalties, and we can't count on our royalties from the state from our cannabis stores yet. But I thought, let's look at 2 mills, which would, I'm estimating somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000, 1 year at a time, and wait and see, do it 1 year and wait and see what those revenues look like to our finances. And, you know, with the 2 mills, it wouldn't go to the people's vote. It would still have to have public hearings, public meetings, but it would be the decision of council. And just to let you know, I'm preparing next year's budget with the 2 mills in there. I've done a study for the 2 mills and what does that do to our millage rate compared to all our surrounding cities and such. I will share it with you. I didn't bring it tonight, but I do have it. But I'm looking to push this forward for 1 year, not 10 years, but 1 year at a time. So this is just a 1 year ask for the 2 mills. And to see what we can do. You know, we do have a 5-year plan, a deficit elimination plan with the landfill, and we all know, even the new council people know that that's going away. The transfers from the landfill to the general fund is going away. We did not have to transfer $2 million. It's still, the audited numbers are coming out, and I'm waiting to see what it actually, landfill was able to keep more of their money, which is good, because we have to fund their closure, post-closure. So, but we'll talk about that later, that fund, but at a later date. But I have to move on this because this is the time frame that with the public hearings, the meetings and all of that, it would have to be voted on before the approval of the budget first week of June. So there's so many meetings that we have to have a public hearing, having the residents in to voice their opinions for. So I'm gonna ask for this to be put on the next agenda and we start moving it. And, you know, the prior council had the 4 mills put on it so they could hear from the people and the whole bit. This is not asking to vote on it. You'll be asked to vote on it after public hearings.
And when is our last transfer from the RLP?
When was it?
When, yeah.
When, well, we still have budgeted money to transfer till this June.
Okay.
But this public millage wouldn't be put on until the winter tax bill. So this would hit the winter tax bill. Now, we provided a 4 mil to each household, what that would mean, and we printed it and we put it in the clerk's office. So if anybody wanted to see what 4 mills looked like to their tax bill, they could go over there, look at their property address and see.
I wanna see.
On a $400,000 house or an assessed $200,000 house, 4 mills was about $438 or something like that. So let's just take half of that. It'd be like a and that's a $400,000 home assessed at $200,000. If you've got a $200,000 home assessed at $100,000, that would be $120 or whatever.
Per year.
Per year, correct, per year. So that's what we're asking for.
So you said this would be a 2 mil ask?
Yes.
And that's just for 1 year. So what happens next year? I'm assuming by then the royalties will be coming from emptying the plant, but then, and then also from the dispensaries, obviously we missed out for this year, so next year. And can you budget for, I see you may struggle doing the royalties budget, can you budget for the money from the dispensaries?
Well, I have to look at that, you know, under the concept of conservatism in accounting, you know, you can budget for reasonable liabilities, but they don't like you under conservatism to budget for apparent revenues, right? You can only budget for the liability or the expense, so I'll have to look at that and see how we can, you know, figure that out. I think we'll have a pretty good feeling though, if the plant comes on and royalties start in March, and they'll start littler as, and we do a good job, we'll get a good feeling by June. We'll have at least 4 months of royalties that we can look at. And again, we're going through, and I've told it, we're just starting our budget process, I've let all the department heads know, like, we gotta get a police car this year, one. We've gotta get, you know, we've got that, we used some money for the down payment on the ambulance. We gotta have certain assets, but we're not just, you know, we're not just going to a, you know, a pickup truck at DPW is not getting replaced every 2 years just because it's timed out. It's got 30,000 miles on it, it's solid, it's gonna go another 2 years. So I know, you know, I don't wanna get into a point where we've pushed all our assets and our, you know, all of our assets to all at the end and we don't have any money to recruit broken down equipment, but we're gonna have to strategize. We're gonna have to start looking at offset years, and we were in crisis mode, that's why we had nothing in CIP. So we're not out of crisis mode, but at least we're gonna look at what needs to be replaced. And of course, there's a fire truck coming up in the future, there's another ambulance, a second ambulance coming up. I'm not trading the 2 used ambulances in, because if one of the used ones go down, we'll have the other one still with the new one, so. You know, I'll be happy, I don't wanna do that tonight, of course, with the essence of time, but there are plans to this, but I think it's very important that we get these 2 mills, cause we're gonna need them.
Questions?
Yes, questions?
What? Go ahead, Brian.
Would there be any benefits waiting that for the audit committee meeting?
No, because at the end of the day, I was asking for 4, which is 1.5 million.
But the audit committee meeting is stuff that was last year's.
Correct, correct. This budget is from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
Yep.
And when you had said at the study session last year that you were gonna have to turn every stone and sharpen your pencils, can you give us an idea of
Well,
what
we
kind of
started.
sacrifices were made?
Yeah, and you know, like I said, the big sacrifice is, you know, you have to pay your people, expenses went up, you know, the wages went up, the benefits went up, all of that went up, but what we did was our discretionary spending has been down. We're not spending to budget, we're not, it's the old use it or lose it is not here, we're budgeting to actual, and we're making it work with what we said the bare minimum, and that's what we're working off, the bare minimum.
And with that, you feel you're still short about 2 mills?
Yep. So, I think it's great. Maybe, you know, maybe Mayor and they had foresight of saying, maybe we don't need the 4 mills, but we do need the 2 mills. There's 100%, you know. And council, we got other discussions, you know, that's not gonna be made here tonight, but we still have post-closure issues that we've gotta, you know, without getting this expansion, we don't have 20 years to figure out how we're gonna fund those accounts. We have 7. It'd be just like, you know, in essence, I think Dean once said it, it's like you go to the bank and you get yourself a mortgage for your house for 30 years. Banker comes to you and says, you're not gonna finance that house for 30 years, now you're gonna finance it in 7. So what do you do? What do you do? And that's what we're gonna be charged with. We don't have that extra 20 years to put money away for the landfill. It's close it in 7, so. Unless, you know, there's expansion or a sale or whatever. But as of right now, that's what we know. That's what we can deal with. We know
So
we got
there's
7.
options in the future, but we have to address what reality is right now.
Sure.
Obviously, we can look in the future, there may be options available.
And the school, and the state has fooled around with the PFAS, you know, and upped our fee and our factor. At one time, we were 100% in our post-closure fund, but with PFAS and PFOS, they doubled it. It went from an $18 or $20 million requirement to 33, and now it's going to 54. And that just keeps going up and up and up. And you know, you're at the mercy of the state with their inflation factors and their factors of what they tell you gotta put away. And hence, remember, the new council people may not know this, but the seniors do, that we had to take a letter of credit out. And we're paying interest on that. Every quarter, we're paying interest. Thank God Ann has done a good job of moving our investment monies that we have on, the monies we have on balance to Michigan Class. So we're earning 5% earnings on our fund balances, but we're still taking some of that away to pay our interest for the letter of credit for the landfill. That's the unfortunate thing.
So I think your point here though is a major contributing factor of all this is we didn't get the expansion. Not only are we missing the income, we're also missing, it's the time that was really more important to us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
An additional 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, we could have had a lot of time to figure this out. You know, there's other things. We're still talking about the sell of the cell tower, the sell of the 9 acres on Grange and 38 acres on Sibley. I don't know if the 38 acres is gonna fall in the 2035 visioning plan. I wanna bring that back up to the study session in February. That's gonna be on the February study session of, hey, what are we doing with this and how are we gonna do it? Because we gotta start making some decisions, and we can't just talk about it. We gotta start moving the needle.
So what action are you looking from us tonight? Is
I'm gonna put this, I'm looking to say, yes, let's put this on the agenda and start moving it forward. Even if it comes to the end and it's a no, we gotta still talk about it. We have to have the residents in, we've gotta discuss this, and we can discuss this more in detail, but I'm asking you to allow me to put the cost study together again and put it all forward, and we start talking about it as one potential option, which I think is a huge option. Especially at 1 year at a time. This is not a multiple year commit. You can control it. At the 2 mills, you can control it here at council.
So do you put 2 budgets together or one?
One, I'm including it. That's gonna be part of my budget because that's how I'm gonna offset my capital. Because if you say go in May, it's included in that budget. You have an opportunity to move money around in that budget, should you decide. And you can tell me take it out, you know, or vote yes to keep it in.
All right, so Jeff, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So because, and forgive me, because maybe I'm just not smart. Because it's 2 mills and not 4, that means it's decided by council and we don't have to have the residents vote on it.
Correct.
So what if next year you ask for another 2? So
You
then
guys
we
can
have-
go up to 2. Up to
Can't
2.
go above that.
We
Can't
have
go.
another council meeting where we vote on it
only good
again.
for
We have to hear the
Well,
public
that's-
again, the whole
that's-
process
But
goes
that's
over.
my point, is that
We
if
can't
we
go
approve,
4.
I'm sorry.
You can't
Can't
go
go
2 and
up
the
to
next
4.
year another 2. You can't
Okay,
do
that's
that.
what I
You can
meant.
go
Yep.
2
Yep.
and he's
Can't go higher
making
than
it,
2.
and he's
Okay,
making
that's-
it
Well,
renewal, so you
we're
gotta
gonna
vote
work
on it.
together to try to figure this out.
Oh,
You know, this
absolutely.
is not
Yeah,
a
just-
unilateral decision here. I just have to bring recommendations.
Yeah,
The 2 things that council does is sets ordinances and budgets,
so
with the help of me. you
how
know.
confident are you that the 2 mills will,
I think so, and I'm very hopeful.
and we've turned all other stones before we ask the residents? for more
Absolutely,
money?
absolutely.
All right.
Your Honor, this is basically a triage.
Mhm.
And council's gotta realize that. This is a triage. We are just making it through this year until we get a summary of what the problem actually is. We've got monies coming in, we don't know how much, we don't know when it is. It's just a triage. All it is we're gonna make it through this year and discuss what we're gonna do, because at the end of the year, we're gonna know where we're at.
And Jeff, I just wanna say kudos to you getting it down to 2 mills, cause this was 4 when we talked about it the last time, and for 10 years. So to get it down to 2 mills for 1 year, good job.
Yeah, plus I wanna bring.
That's a lot of work.
Well, thank you, and to my department heads, you know, I mean, they look at me every time we have department head meetings, and I say, guys, we don't have money. Okay, we're not gonna buy this, we're not gonna do, we don't have money, we just,
But I
you know.
think the unknown here is like Teresa's point, is, you know, we've got, the 2 mills will set aside by us for next year.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, we've done a good job, I think, of partially replacing the income from the landfill. But, I mean, landfill's still gonna have the income, but it's gonna keep it.
So-
we're finding these replacements with the
So-
gas plant and dispensaries and
Correct,
those.
but you gotta remember, back in the day, when the landfill's always been profitable.
Yeah.
The problem was, they were taking all of its profits to the general fund to support city services. And that's how you got the negative balance in the landfill. It would make 2 million, 2.5 million, and they were taking 3.5 million. Well, that year, we're $1 million in a hole. And that happened for a number of years.
Not under my watch.
No, I'm not. And then we burned through a lot of cash. Ann tells me every day, why did we, burn through $24 million for cell 7? Well, cell 7 represents, what, Kevin, $150 million of revenue? Well, we could have bonded that, and we'd have cash right now.
But the truth is, if we wouldn't have paid cash and we'd have gotten expansion, you've been saying how brilliant this guy was because we didn't pay all that interest. So this is that hindsight guessing
Yeah,
again,
well,
which I
and
got
I'm
a
not,
real
and I,
problem with.
yeah, and I'm not blaming anyone, but my problem was it may not have been discussed, and that's the
It
big.
was not discussed.
And that's the big thing, because maybe 6 of them would have said, you know what? I know it could save us interest if we get this expansion, but if we don't, it sure would be nice to have $22 million in the account, and we're just paying interest and, you know, offsetting the revenue against those interest payments.
But you
So-
are aware we've been getting a lot of this second guessing garbage.
I
And
do.
someone has seen the results of what occurred, they wouldn't have done this.
I know.
And I'm getting a little tired of that.
Well, but Dean.
I don't necessarily agree with what occurred, but it's real easy to stand back, point fingers, and say, shame on you. I'm getting awful tired of this stuff.
Well, again,
So this is
I'm
the
ju-
forward plan.
Yes,
This is what we need to do. We
yeah, we
can't
gotta move
change the
forward.
past.
Well, we gotta
That's how
talk
we
about
fix
it.
it.
By doing this, we get to talk more about it, we
Mhm.
get to show, we get to, so I think it's very important to include this in the next
And
agenda to move
And I
it
do
forward.
too, but I also was, the way I asked about the 2 budgets is, at least if, for no other reason, for curiosity, is where, say say it doesn't get approved.
Then
And
we're gonna make-
we need to know where those
we will have a
cuts are
list,
gonna be.
we will have a list of cuts. We will have a list of cuts.
If I was the public listening in, you had said earlier on a conservative accounting that you don't take anything in consideration that you don't already have. So knowing that this could possibly fail, we might not vote it in, how are you able to put it into the budget and then take it out?
Because I pull it out, I'll pull it out before it's voted on. At the very end of the budget process, you vote on the budget book. Go around the table, yes, no,
So
yes.
sometime, is it that May or June? When
That's
does it go?
June. It's gotta be voted on before the first Monday in June is when it'll be voted on.
But you're preparing a list of cuts.
Yeah, I will prepare a list of cuts based on the revenue that's without the 2 mills.
And as far as income, can you give us an idea when we'll actualize the CNG sale revenue?
He said
Plan.
spring we
Would-
started.
Yeah,
seeing
first
spring.
quarter in the spring.
Oh, you mean the sale of it? It's already included. We got the check. We got the $180,000 wired to us, didn't we, Ann?
Yep.
Yep.
And
It hasn't been picked up yet from the site, but Kevin, they're making arrangements to? Yep, okay. But we have the money. It's already, after you approved the sale, it was already before December 31st.
I believe there was some annual residual from that as well.
That's from the gas sales.
No,
Yeah, they're
no,
gonna
I
get it
thought-
all now. We're not taking, we're not carving any gas.
No,
up.
no, I didn't mean from the RNG. The CNG, wasn't there annual monies that we were gonna get from the owner?
No, I don't believe
No,
so.
so just 186,000.
That's it, yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
I just want to know what he's talking about. You're talking about the scrap metal?
No, no, the
What-
CNG pump that we
Oh,
sold.
oh, the pump.
Yeah,
Okay.
the pump station.
All right.
We sold it, it's sold, it's gonna be off our books at this year's audit.
You'll give us comparables to other cities to show.
What, the
does it-
2%? Yep.
Thank you.
I think what
Yeah.
Brian's referring to is, by selling the pump, the gas that, the compressed natural gas was now being diverted to DTE. I believe
Yes,
that's
and
what
DTE
he's
is gonna
referring
use
to.
every SEFM they can because it's
Yeah,
way
that's-
more advantageous. Kevin,
There's
what
no
was our
annual-
big, I mean, over the years, when the plant was installed in 16 or 17, the whole history, we took we sold $220,000 worth.
That's what I was, I thought it was $40,000 annually was gonna be.
Oh,
paid
yeah,
back to the
and,
city. Am I wrong here?
Oh,
From the sale of the
CNG
compressed
pump.
natural gas station that
Yeah.
we had on site.
Mhm.
yeah,
Correct, so then the 100 SEFM, when they're through commissioning and running, will be at $1.75 or
$1.85 a BTU,
Okay.
and then they'll be processing that. Cause they're gonna pull everything,
so
they
it's
want
not,
us,
it's just because it's not a separate payment, it's just that we're gonna make more off of it going
Sure.
to the plant as opposed to going to
Absolutely.
CNG.
cause we only made
Yeah.
from 2016 $200,000. And one year it was 33
Yeah.
because Amazon was
Amazon.
filling up their delivery truck. Every other year, it's been less than 20, it's been like 15,000.
So help me solidify that number, just because I had the 40,000 in my mind, he just said $1.85 per what?
BTU.
Unit of
per
measure,
per
just.
unit. So is that going to be the 40,000 that we had discussed before?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what his estimated, Kevin estimated it at. Correct.
That will come in addition to what DT would be.
It would be inside of that.
That's what
If
I'm-
we didn't have it, it would be 40,000 less than, now it's gonna be 40,000 more.
Yeah, that's what I was asking for,
Yep.
clarification.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's what he's talking about when he says
Yep.
the residual.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then to put it on vote at the next session, is that just to prove it to go to
The hearings.
the hearings?
Yeah, yeah.
Just to start
You're
the
not gonna
process.
approve, you're not
No,
gonna
I
approve it to
understand.
the
I just wanna
end.
make sure that the residents are clear that this
Start
is
the
just to
process.
start the process
Yeah.
of the hearing.
Correct. Absolutely. All right. Before we get to 2.3.
Yeah, I'd like, well, consensus to put it
Oh,
on
I'm sorry,
the
David.
agenda?
No,
Yes.
it's, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
No,
all
say-
Yes.
right.
No, I just wanted to, for anybody watching. So what we're doing, we went from the 4. Originally, 10 years is what we were staking it at. You got it down to 2. We approve, or.
1 year at a time.
1 year at a time.
Correct.
And it's not 2, and then next year another 2. It's two mills, and then we vote to renew that or not. So it only goes up one time essentially.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And where we're sitting at and having this discussion, to the point that Dean made earlier, or Councilman Workman, sorry. We all watch a lot of football, I'm sure, lately. I yell and scream from my couch too, right? That's a terrible call, this, that, and the other. What we're doing now is essentially having a discussion. Therein lies the difference of what we're doing now. We're talking about it, we know about it, as opposed to looking back and saying, oh, wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that. We're all gonna have like a, okay, cool, I like that, right?
Correct.
There's a conversation being had.
Correct.
And that's why this is a positive, in my mind, dialogue, super important.
And,
That's all I
and
wanted to
I just wanna close with what I did, a 5-year deficit elimination plan for the landfill and to the state treasury. This was one factor in that plan. So this
The
is
2
nothing,
mills.
2 mills, this is nothing new. This has been talked about, this has been studied, this has been scheduled, this is what's expected. So, okay.
Okay.
Okay, before we get to 2.3, I do wanna do the engineering stuff. Kevin, I know Jennifer Boyer's not here. What do you have for engineering at,
So obviously we had the RNG update this evening. The only other thing we're going on is we had the PFAS sampling trial that we were doing, bench testing, and then the conversation will begin with the spring gas construction at the landfill shortly.
And I wanna remind you, Kevin did talk about the PFAS, we're doing a bench test. You know, this is coming down the pike. We're looking at, as Councilman Workman said, not just what PFAS is today, but what's the next thing we're gonna have to treat for? And we're looking at a system that we only wanna do it one time, so we have this capital expenditure. The good news is that Tetra Tech, our landfill engineer, has been working with different sites with grants for these things. And we're very hopeful that this PFAS removal and water treatment, this reverse osmosis, the RO system, would qualify for this grant, so, which would be huge to us. Because Kevin, what was the estimate? Something like $3 to $4 million for a upgraded water plant.
Just for the new people, will you explain how much our leachate has been costing?
Yeah, it used to be, Kevin, what, $300 a day for hauling?
Yeah, give or take.
And it went up to what, $1,200 a day?
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've gotta do something because we haul every single day, pump and haul, so,
What this system will do is that we will process it ourselves.
before we send it to the
And
store.
we're looking at being able to process to the end of the landfill. So we won't do it, even when we're closed, we're still gonna have PFAS, or we're still gonna have this leachate coming off.
The
You said it went from 400 to 1,200?
Yep,
Yeah,
and there's just,
companies
There's
are.
only one hauler, right?
There's only
Yeah,
one
companies
hauler.
are going together and they're just raping us.
and
Yeah.
also, Kevin had a good idea, I think it was Councilman Workman and the mayor had, in the RLPC meeting, they had a good idea with well, wait a minute, if other people are pumping and hauling, maybe we should take their leachate and clean it through our system and charge them. And it could be a potential other source of revenue.
So the design with that capacity will be
Yes,
designed.
well, Kevin's
into it.
looking at that.
But where you're gonna see is you're gonna see a big cost come. But the payoff is 4 years?
Yeah,
Payoff for the system is 4 years.
Wow.
So we're gonna finance it, but we're gonna pay it off in 4 years. So.
and it's gonna last for
Then
the
we own
life
it.
of the landfill. This RO system doesn't have a lot of moving parts, so it's gonna, I mean, there'll be some repairs and maintenance to it, but it's a really, Kevin and I visited a site with an RO, and the guy took, you know, the dirty water and sludge, everything came from the hill, processed through this thing, and it came out in a glass, it was clear, he drank it. He said, would you like to try it? I said, heck no.
And either one of you, if you'd like, you could drink it.
But I did, but Kevin and I did go to the, you know what they're doing? In west side of the state, they're just not discharging to the Duo wastewater treatment plant, they're discharging to like a Frankenpoet Creek. And it was so clean that the fish were dying. They thought it was dying because it was taking all the organism out of the water. It was so clean that fish were dying, so they had to put back in organisms into the creek so the fish could live. So it's supposed to be very, very clear, clean, and it's expensive, but you know, we've seen it.
Is there a way we can take a look at what, that plan? You know, just so I can get an idea.
Yeah, you can drive up, Kevin, we can take them out there, they can go out there, right?
I have if you wanted to see the plan, we can do that, and I also have, from our trial that we did, sample lots from start to finish. You can
Okay.
see if we did, I mean, you can come to my office and see
Yep.
that.
But we're just gonna see a bunch of filters.
Well, I mean, just
In a
from
phone.
my own knowledge, because obviously where I work, I deal with wastewater treatment plants quite a bit, so I'm just curious, it's just from my own knowledge.
It's reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
Yep, so,
Where's the PFAS currently trucked to? About how many miles is that as well?
Belleville, right, Kevin? Belleville, which was the old EQ site, which is now, who owns it, Kev?
Republic?
Republic owns it now. It's in Belleville off of Rossendale Road, it's that landfill, they're taking all the PFAS.
That's
They're also the site that took,
The injection well stuff?
yeah, and also the train derailment in Ohio.
Wow.
Just out of curiosity, what was the time frame where you had a 300% increase?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year, a
One year.
300% increase
Yep.
over
Yes.
1 year?
Yep, I think our budget went from something like, 270,000 or 300,000 to 1.2 million.
Wow.
Jeff, I'd like a 300% increase in my salary.
Yeah, so we all would. And you don't know how many companies we called about hauling this.
Yeah.
I called everywhere, even called Canada, see if there's a Canadian company that come over the bridge, haul it, take it back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't cost conducive, so.
4 years, that facility will be paid for, and then we will still, even after the closure, we'll still have, that we have to filter.
There's
and
still
it'll
very
still be
minimal we have to ship out though.
Yeah, there'll be very, yeah,
Yeah.
but Kevin, what's it like from a truck a day or 2 trucks a day to like a
It's
truck?
10% of whatever we.
10%. So it'll be 120 grand versus 1.2 million.
It'll be the crap we
hauling.
filter out.
How confident we'll get the grant money?
Well, I don't know. Kevin's working closely with Tetra Tech on that. I am not. I told Kevin if he needs my help to get me involved, but he's well capable of.
We're the only little landfill that's applied for it as of right now. Marquette did it last year, they got 8 million.
Wow.
And they were the only landfill then, so we're optimistic, I guess. I can't put a percentage on it.
Are you writing the grant yourself, or
Tetra Tech.
getting assist- Tetra Tech is?
And they wrote the grant for Marquette, didn't they?
Yes.
They already wrote one that was accepted, so,
I did the initial application and then.
so,
Awesome.
okay?
Thank you.
Good.
All right, Dave Skirdo. So how, you're last.
It's 2 items from last month. 2 weeks ago, Burger King came in front of Planning Commission to start the process of changing over to a cannabis facility. And then also, the other item is tomorrow night, we got the riverfront study from the national firm is coming in to Riverview right here tomorrow evening from 5:30 to 7:30, and staff's been working really closely with them to get the rooms pulled together, data to them, and things like that. It's been our big projects.
Thank you.
And I think I mentioned it earlier, Dave, I did sign
Yes.
the agreement for wetlands and appraisal for all 3 properties. Just so we get a value of what we know we're dealing with.
So you've selected appraiser for that?
We have,
Do you any idea how long it's gonna take to get the appraisal?
probably spring.
The wetlands is gonna come in the spring, the property appraisal, I'm just waiting for him to call, we just emailed him on Monday, asking for an update when he can tell us, he was out of town, so I don't have that answer.
I mean, these have been ongoing since March of last year. Why is it taking so long to get these appraisals?
The agreement just went out.
Yeah, we just decided to do it.
Remember I told you why, remember I told you that we weren't gonna do the wetlands and the appraisal with the foliage, because they can't, they'd have to physically go and survey and the whole bit. Without the foliage, they can use GPS and they can use, digital, and it's gonna be less costly. So
And it was.
that was November,
Right,
November.
and it would
I
be
just.
returned by January.
Yep, it would be returned by January. They wouldn't start, they didn't wanna start now until February.
Okay, conversation was different from my side.
No, I was hopeful
after
that they
the
were gonna
foliage.
start, I thought they were gonna start and be done in 45 days. That was that's what the quote said. And then we get an email back saying we can't start. I don't know if they,
And the property appraisal hasn't started?
no, but that's the easier of the two. It'll get
It'll
done.
just- the
Different
agreement just went out.
conversations, okay. So we're looking at possibly spring.
It will be spring. They're gonna do, in the order, they're doing the 9 acres first, then the 38 acres, and they're gonna do what they can together, but when they do the exact, that's the order. Because I think the 9 acres will be an easier decision made by council to sell and develop than the 38, because there's different ideas about the 38 with the visioning plan. But the 9 acres can either be single homes or condos or whatever, so, or multiple or whatever, so that should be the easy one. And the cell tower, that's gonna be really easy too. I could tell you what it's worth right now, but we need something from a third party,
Yeah, I mean,
independent, you
to
know?
get appraisal, I wouldn't assume it would take this long, but, okay.
Yep, okay.
Welcome to government.
hmm?
Everything's slow.
Okay, all right, is that it?
No, I just wanted to ask if there's an update about the Wild Coney site. There was something in the background about this. It looks like there's an applicant that's wants a dispensary possibly.
Well, there's competing interests for that property. One was still the Dunkin' Donuts that was going in there. They asked to keep their application alive to the end of January, for they figure out they need a second tenant. The cannabis facility for that, we reached out to them to see what they wanna do, and we're not getting any return calls.
Okay, and from the planning commission side, there was a problem with using the access from Concessions or the owner of the property
Yeah,
was
Concessi
disputing that.
wouldn't- Yeah, Concessi said they wouldn't grant access. They'd have to build a new access drive off of Fourth Street.
Okay. So we won't know until that possibly some other company tries to purchase it, if that's gonna be a problem. for
Yeah, I
them.
asked for an update for the 31st of January.
Anything else, Brian?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just interested in that. Anything you can share, since we're going into these ARCMA, DCC discussions, and then with Congresswoman Dingle at the end of the month? Anything from your side? It's been noted there's an industrial developer interested in the West Bryan field.
There was, a couple years ago, we were told by Arkland they're doing a baseline study for that, and I did have a call from an industrial broker, real estate broker, 2 years ago, who said that he may have somebody going, but be 2 or 3 years out before we hear anything.
Okay, so we don't know if they're still interested then?
No. It's a good site.
It's an opportunity, so that's why I just wanted to understand what's continuing with that or not continuing with that. And then just one question on the, if I may, on the master plan. It was noted that there's gonna be substantial increase in efforts for grant writing. Am I correct in that statement?
As in terms of master plan, we're gonna attempt to do grant writing or see if there's another source to do that grant writing.
Okay, will that be done in-house, or are we looking at?
We haven't gone that far yet to figure out who, and it would be end up with, in front of the manager, how he wants to proceed.
Okay. All right. Thank
Is
you.
it?
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
So, hi-yo.
All right, thank you. Good evening. We're waiting for a warm-up so we can start the sewer lining. We gotta minimize some of the infiltration inflow from the system. We're finalizing.
And how many
the
feet, linear feet are we lining this year?
We're lining $600,000 worth.
Okay.
So
Which is
we are
about
inside
how
of the
much,
site.
200 feet?
I'm looking about 2,000 feet of line.
Okay.
We're finalizing the contracts for the potholing of the sanitary, of the lead services. We're also finalizing the lead services contract. And we're putting a list of road sections together for next budget years.
So how, is that off the Pazer study, or is that just off your study of?
Of the Pazer study mostly, then we
Yep.
get with Jeff and go around, drive around, see
Yep.
what's more critical to our place.
Ron? So I know thaw is coming, believe it or not. How long till we will be hooked up to the tunnel in that subdivision? I panic every year when we go through
We
this.
are finalizing final detail. The county's been giving us hard time, so it's due about the connection. We have to put a big shaft to connect to the tunnel. And we're arguing with them about how we connect to the tunnels. They will not let us go into a manhole into it, so we have to build a shaft and a manhole. And that's where the hang-up is.
So we don't know when we'll be able to.
So we have a meeting tomorrow about it with the DUA people. Hopefully, if they approve it, I'll bring it to front of the council for authorization to bid. The specs are done, everything's done. We just need approval.
Okay. And Jeff, when is our road bond up? What's the date? Do we know?
No, but I will get it for you. And do you know, is it 2
I
years?
think it's 2 years.
Isn't it
Maybe there's
2026?
2 more payments, I think.
2026, I thought.
Yeah.
But I'll get it to you, 2026. Yeah, because that DUA project's what, $6 million a tunnel?
Just about.
So we'll have to
Keeps
bond
going
for
up,
that.
the more we wait, the more-
Unless we get CE Rains to put up the money for us.
I can put a tank in the back of the parking lot.
Okay. That's a $6 million connection, so that's not chump change. But our other road bond is falling off. And there's something else too. Since I've been city manager for a year, I've heard a lot of sidewalk problems. So I got with Sohio, and Sohio says I'm dumb for trying to take it on, but I really would like to get a program going to replace cement sidewalks. The city go through, mark them, have a company that's just dedicated for sidewalks, and we add it back to the tax bill. But he said, you know, be ready to fight, because people are gonna tell you that they're not bad and you shouldn't have to replace them. And, you know, the idea is, and I've seen it in other communities, and Sohio agrees with me, that there's just cement companies that look to do sidewalk work for the whole summer or whatever. They have crews, multiple crews, and the idea is, you know, if you have a crew come in like that in a mass contract, they can get it done for $90 or $100 a square, versus if you call a company out to do it, it might be $200-300 a square, so. But the problem comes in that if you mark it, they disagree with the markings, and, but look, I asked Ohio when the last time we had sidewalk done in the city. What did you say, Sohio?
3-4 years ago, 4 years ago.
4 years ago. So we haven't even looked at it in 4 years. And you know what happens to roads and everything else in 4 years. It's not, they're not getting any better, so.
The problem I hear the most with the sidewalks is that residents aren't allowed to remove the trees whose roots are causing their sidewalks to, you know, get all uneven and crazy and whatever. So the problem that they're having is, why am I gonna pay for a new sidewalk when the roots are just gonna upend it again? So.
Yeah, we'll have, I mean, that's part of the target on my back, but like I said, if doing nothing, I don't think is a very prudent fiduciary response either, like, oh, well, it hasn't been done so well. You know, I'm trying to.
We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll look at it. Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sohio.
So everybody can leave if they don't want to be around for this discussion, except for Azita
Nice, stay
and
warm.
Azita and
Thank you, everybody.
Drive safe.
Todd. Because they'll have some input. Thank you. And I forgot Ann, you too. All right. Yeah.
She was like, really, they would consider, I said, no, it's just a thought.
Yep.
And she was like, yes, that would be something
Yep.
that would be, someone who knows they want.
You can step. You're
All
good.
right, Mayor?
Okay.
Yes,
All
I
right.
got you.
Like the burgundy.
All right, back to 2.3, discuss the Go Big Multimedia Agreement and the Riverview Register. This is at the request of Councilman Prey and Councilman O'Neill, so Councilman Prey, if you want to get started on what the concerns are
So,
here.
biggest concern is, first off, is the school district paid up on the bill?
No, but they've identified the bill, we've reconciled the bill, counted all the pages, and they are currently paying quarterly, right, Ann?
Yeah, we have them, they will catch up quarterly on the outstanding bill, and they've been paying monthly,
Current bill.
ever since, we started, November. So they've been, November through now, they've been paying, of last year, 22.
And I would add to that, Councilman Parade, that it's undisputed, so they're paying, they agreed to pay, so everything that has not been billed back to them, they're paying, so everything is paid.
So how far behind did they get?
1 year.
1 year?
Well, no, how many,
No, 2
6,
years.
2 years,
Actually, 2.5 years they got back.
2.5 years.
So, just for my clarification.
Yeah.
Why did we pay for them?
Because the agreement was, now, and you need to understand the agreement. The agreement was 2.5 pages to the city, 2.5 pages to the school district. And then on the years and on the months that it was heavy school, we got less, and on the months that it was heavy city, we got more.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yep, and that's kinda how it worked.
But I think the answer is, his question is, the contract is with us.
It is, a contract with us, it is not separated.
So, but explain how we got here. I mean, we lost our finance director and our half of our
Yeah,
finance department.
correct.
So.
And the other thing as well is that every director, every department was sending their information to the paper. Now, in the heavy months, I knew, being the landfill director, we were using the paper for the expansion, to help promote the expansion. I expected those months to be not $13.76 a month, which that's our current rate, it's $1,376 a month. And the school's rate is $13.76 a month. We were getting $3,440 a month on those heavy months. Now, with saying that, there are other months that we had extra pages, that the city had no idea that it was extra pages because department heads were sending the paper information or content without really realizing how many pages were gonna end up in the paper. Lack of control. That was supposed to go through the city manager's office, never knew it. Never knew it. This was the prior city managers would, so now, to fix that, so I could keep it to the $13.76 a month, all publications to that, all content to the paper has to come through my office. I count it, I look at it. So for example, if we were running, and this is how it works, if it's pre-event, it counts against our pages. If it's post-event, it's their content, it's a story.
Okay.
So that's how that works. So let's say Summer Festival, we're promoting Summer Festival, we buy a page. That's on us, that's part of our 2.5. If it comes out in July's to report on how well the Summer Festival went, that we don't pay for that page, it's a story.
How do you identify if it's a story from the paper or from the city? From the
Before or
paper.
after?
Before and after.
So if it's after the event, it's always written by
The
one
paper.
of their.
Yep, but if I
it's
call.
before, then it's.
Yeah, and if I call though and say, hey, I wanna run one page on the Summerfest, give me a reporter, and I'm gonna tell them, give them information to write, and if that's before the event, it's part of our page count. If they cover it afterwards, and I can tell you right now, when I went through, I did an audit of all the pages we were charged, and I came down to like, within in a year and a half, 18 months, I think I came down to 1 or 2 page difference of what they said to what we said. We spent that money because it was pages. Now, did we have full page ads for karate or a reading program? Yeah. Did we need that 1 page ad? I don't know, but no one was throttling what was going to the paper. And you know, the paper's gonna always print what you send them. So there had to be some kind of control.
When did the oversight start? Like, when did you realize that people were just sending the paper, whatever, and the paper was published?
Like 2 months ago.
So, wow.
2 months ago.
This really came out when I was looking at stuff for the audit, because I was new eyes, right? I'm like, whoa, what is this big balance outstanding, so that's how this all really got started.
So when she took over, obviously, I don't know how long.
Well, she started August 1st, but she didn't touch the paper
No,
account.
yeah, till,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Prior to this, when department heads were sending the articles directly to the paper, and were we then being charged more because there was more than the allotted 2
Correct.
pages?
So our contract right now is $13.76 per page, or for the month, which is 2.5 pages, so that's $5.50 a month, a page. Extra pages currently get billed at $6.88 a page, every extra page.
But I think one thing we need to keep in mind here is, if you count the pages, actually, we buy the pages, share them with the school district. And when we first negotiated this, when it was first presented, that we knew, even though we keep saying 2.5 pages each, 1 month we could have 1, the school could have 4. And if you see it, when it approaches like April, May, or June, there's a lot less school content, more city content promoting our, the summer programs and that type of stuff. And the roles switch in August, September, where you'll see a lot of higher school content and less on ours. So, that's just how the page worked out, but all the contract and stuff, that's all up to these guys.
Where does the mayor's article fit into the 2.5?
The mayor article is not included in any of the space. Will can correct me if I'm wrong, that space is offered up to every mayor in each of the communities the papers exist. Some of them don't.
It doesn't cost anything?
There's no cost to the city.
That was not part of my count. That was not part of my count.
It better not be.
And I counted, and the school counted, and even the school, when they did their audit, and we did our audit independently, and how many, we were like, what?
A couple pages off, a couple
Mhm.
sort of.
Because I saw,
But that's a good question, because I know it's been a discussion.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
they're short, sometimes they're long.
Well, yeah, so sometimes I'm wordy, sometimes I'm not.
Right.
So,
But yeah,
You've got nothing
to
to
the
say,
other mayors
sometimes
as
too
well.
much.
That's offered to other mayors as
It's
well.
after the other.
It is offered up. I don't know how many of them, I think CUSPA took them up for a while, but I don't.
Yeah, I saw the article
yeah.
about the fire at the
Mhm.
apartments and the communities' involvement together, so.
So, and from a side, the paper of marketing for our city, Azita's here for the library and Todd for recreation. It's huge because it goes to every single household, right? And what I learned, which is really, really good for us, because the more participation we have in these programs, the less cost it is, because we collect more revenue for the programs, right? If Todd's charging for programming and he gets more participants, then it's more revenue and it offsets the cost of the program. Less participants, more cost of the programs. But what JJ told me when we had a meeting with the superintendent, counting the pages and such, 50% of the Riverview schools are out of district.
50% of the
So it doesn't reach
Student.
them.
So it doesn't, but what's cool about that is the digital copy reached them. And JJ goes, this is great. Because now they can go online and flip the Riverview Register.
But doesn't that mean the digital copy reaches everybody?
It does,
It
but
does.
it's also to the other people as well. So, I mean, and that's why I had Todd and Azita say, just that it's very important, like if we
Why don't
just
you
want.
invite them
Yeah,
over?
come on up, like the rack rate, I got the rack rate, it's $1,040 a page. So if they're gonna split a page for summer reading program and kickboxing or summer baseball or recreation, one page is almost our 1 month fee. And these are gonna happen, so, anyhow. Azita, tell them, I don't know how many pages you use a year, Azita, and how many ads, but how many times you publicize in a year to the Riverview Register?
So I just went through so we've been publishing since 2019. In the Register, we've published 1 full page ad, full color, every month. So we've had about 60 ads. And then we've had a couple for summer reading, extra. I will say that the Register offers design services. I don't use them because I do design, so I make them a quarter page and a full page, and then they usually run, depending on what month it is and what Todd has, the size that they're able to, so.
Todd, what do you use them for what? What is the Register used for in recreation?
I basically put every program that we have, every special event that we have into the Register, and we do submit monthly, just like the library. Ours varies on how much space we use, depending on how many programs, special events, you know, how much we wanna promote special events.
Do you notice, have you noticed a certain percentage from before using it to after?
We have not kept any statistical on it. I
Okay.
mean, it's not our only advertising avenue. So, and we've not ever asked people, how did you know about this program? So I can't answer that to accuracy.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys had ever asked anyone, so.
I will say we have a stand at the library, so people are taking it there. And we've had people come in, it's usually older people or people that don't use the internet is the big. But they do come in and they will bring in a copy of the Register, they'll rip out an ad, or like the summer concerts was a big one, just because, you know, they had questions about it, or our events calendar. But we have no actual data for you, sorry, because we've never thought to say, well, how did you hear about us? Because we use Facebook and the website, we have all these avenues, but, you know, the good thing about the Register, I will say, and Todd and I were talking, it does get to every household, which I don't know that other avenues that we're using are doing that. So that is the benefit.
Zeta, do you happen to know do you have any clue how many seniors aren't computer literate? They use that specifically? I mean, they would come into the library to read things, and do you?
I mean, yeah, we don't really have numbers. I will say that the majority that come in, I mean, I don't wanna say majority, we have a lot, we have 8 public computers, and I would say more than half of the use on those computers are people that need help, who are seniors that don't use the internet at home. So we do have a big population in the city that is sort of, you know, they're in this sort of digital divide. They're not able to access things online, but I don't know. We don't
So they
have
come
any
in for
numbers.
your help to get
Yeah.
things that are only available online?
Right, yeah.
Now, we were giving training on computers.
Seniors for seniors?
For seniors, how are we doing with that?
We still offer the senior classes. They go over fairly well. I mean, it's not like a huge explosion of seniors, but I mean, we do have a decent number, 15 to 20 that take it up each month when we're offering it.
And I think Dean's referring to that program that we had last spring, that was seniors teaching seniors. We had the Riverview High School IT department coming in and teaching the seniors with their phones and laptops.
We had about 7 or 8 seniors come in
Yep.
for that.
But there was,
program.
I was there was like 20, 25 people though, that funneled in there, seniors,
I
and
will
their
say-
spouses.
I will say this, and I mean to interrupt you, but we do, if we look at it on a daily basis, we help at least once a day someone use a Kindle, an iPhone, a phone call they've gotten and they don't know if it's a legit phone number, and we have to help them search that out. I mean, it's very basic things, but it's also, I mean, some people don't know how to use a mouse, to people wanting to get onto a Kindle. So I would say the amount of help we're giving to seniors, if we look at that one-on-one, we offer one-on-one interaction, not classes. Todd does the classes, so we do more of the appointments with them. I mean, it's, you know, 10, 15 people a week easily. It's
Todd,
every day.
what's your experience with the seniors? You deal with them, how computer literate are they?
Our seniors that probably come to our programs here are on the less computer literate side. Many of our seniors that like take our trips and stuff like that, we've experienced that they use our registration program pretty well on that. So it's really varying. I mean, every year, from our experience, the seniors are becoming more literate within the computers. And I think you have a new generation coming up, they've worked with it, they lived with it in their work years. But it's the older seniors that still tend to not want to participate in the computers.
And we should say 95% of Review seniors are very computer literate. So I don't want everyone to think that, you know, that we have a lot that they do everything online. And so even when we're talking about like the tax season's coming up, we have people that still want the old tax forms, which are hard to get. But most of the seniors now are, I mean, they're the ones using the Kindles, and, you know, they're just as literate as anyone else, so.
Anything else there?
Can I ask how much we're paying annually?
Well, so there was, I have to verify this, the big year of the expansion, and we're only billed yearly. If we would be, we're gonna go to a monthly billing cycle now, so that we can do this, but, and what did we get billed in the big year when it was the expansion year? Cause you gotta cut out the school district out of there.
Right, Right, so.
So I think the total in the
Yeah,
ledger, which everybody would have seen, was like 80 something,
about
like 80,
80,000
and how much of that was school?
Probably a third.
Yeah, I think a little better than a third.
Yeah.
It was almost 40, so it was 40 grand one year, when it should be 13, what's 1376 times 12, what is that, Ann?
About 16,000.
16, yeah. Now, and we had a $40,000 bill then for extra pages during the expansion, and not paying attention from department heads, knowing that we've already used up 2.5 pages of the city, and they sent 3 extra pages or whatever. Well, that month alone, extra pages were more than our contractual amount. So we're putting stop gaps in there so that doesn't happen, that we only use our 1376. And at 1376 a month, the Riverview Register represents 0.1% of our budget. 0.1% of our budget at 1376 a month. So it's not like it's a huge budget item, except, you know, I mean, when you get into the extra pages, that's the problem. And then it looks bad because in our general ledger, we've got all the we've got the school districts' monies in our ledger, because we're paying the bill for them as well and getting reimbursed.
Well, we're now getting reimbursed.
Yes.
For
we're
2
now-
years we weren't.
Yes, we're now getting reimbursed. And I talked to Riverview Regis and said, hey, is this a big deal? Can we just split off and have our own contract for 2.5 pages? And that's a possibility as well, where we only get billed our section and paid our section. School gets billed their section, they pay their section.
I think that's a good idea. I
Yep.
mean, if it's possible, if
Yep.
this.
It's very possible.
We could separate the contract.
Yep. That's very possible.
So,
And that's kind of a good idea, but my concern is because I don't know how that works with the free, do we get a free page, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because actually,
we'd
we're
have to
buying
work-
the 4 pages and getting a free one.
Correct.
So
We'd have to-
I'm not gonna speak for
we'd
that,
have-
but. you
We'd
know.
have to work that all out, but, you know, that is an option to bill separately, pay separately.
So this year, we're gonna be paying monthly?
We haven't started that, but yes. We haven't been billed for 2020, and what,
No, we haven't been billed for 22, 23.
yep.
Wait, what? We haven't been billed for 22 or 23?
No, 22, 23,
Yeah,
because we're billed annually.
So last year, we
Yeah.
were billed for last year.
Right, because it's billed annually, where now it's gonna be billed monthly.
but you guys have caught up, you have counted up the papers and you know exactly what.
Yes.
We'll be paying.
Well, through 2022.
Yep.
We haven't got any 2023. I can only count the papers that we've been billed for.
So we don't know exactly what the amount's gonna be for last year.
Correct.
Is my question.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. We gotta go through that.
Oh,
We gotta go through the same process.
That's what I was
That's a
asking.
trying process. How many hours? That was like 6 hours or 6.5 hours.
We have to do that, or the register does that?
Well, we wanna verify what we're being charged, right?
Well, I mean, but they're gonna send you a bill.
Oh,
correct?
sure.
And they haven't done that yet,
No.
is what we're hearing.
Right.
Okay. And then once we get the bill, then you're gonna go count how many pages we
Absolutely.
use by the city.
Yep.
And see if that jives.
Yep, absolutely.
And when do you guys normally get billed? I mean,
At the end of the
January,
year.
February?
Well, I think the answer would be is when the paper train comes in, the train that hauls all the paper in, that's when we get billed. Uses that monies to offset the train and the paper, cause he buys paper
means
in
a little
bulk.
train.
Yes,
You know, like a real big train. Comes from
Money train,
Canada,
the
from the
paper
paper mill.
I know, earlier I said I'm not the brightest in the room, but I did, thank you.
Now, Your Honor,
Dean.
back when we made the decision to go with this, did you happen to look and see what it cost us to send our newsletter out? Or Todd, do you have a clue what it cost us?
At the time when we brought the newspaper in, we had cut the newsletter through the recreation department. It had already been cut for about 5 years due to budgets, having to cut budgets. It was one of those things that back when we had already cut the newsletter.
Do you
and it
do you
has-
recall the price?
I would have to go back and look. It's
I,
been years.
I
I'd
can
have to
tell
go
you,
back and look.
when KCI sent the, information out for the, public safety village, the postage alone was $2,200 for one.
So we at one time canceled a newsletter that went out as one of our cuts.
During budget cuts at one time back in, around probably 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, we canceled
Dean, you
the.
canceled that back then,
The
did you?
newsletter. At that point, when I first started here, we were still doing a newsletter for about 5, 6 years, my first 5, 6 years. We were doing a 3 times a year newsletter through the recreation department, and when times got tight, That was one of the things we decided to cut, was the advertising and try to make it on, since social media was starting to come big, try to make it on social media. But I will tell you, it did hurt us at that point.
Right. If we decide to split with the schools, would we still, how would we do that where in the spring, we're getting more pages and in the fall, they're getting more, and we kind of do that more fluid movement of who needs more at that time? Would that end? It would just be, we get this many,
That would have
that's
to be
it?
negotiated, but my guess is that would just end.
Now, if we're
And-
just going monthly though, can't we, wouldn't we just be like, all right, they're not paying again, or if they're staying on track, then we could keep that? Just seems like it'd be weird to make two contracts. If we're going monthly, we can keep up on it and it would get behind.
Well, and again, you know, it was one of those things that just wasn't looked at, wasn't monitored, wasn't done, and, you know, the attention I think that it grew was there was a big amount in our trial balance. What the heck's going on if the balance is only supposed to be 15 grand a year, or, and it's 81 or whatever the number was, I don't know. How did that get there? And I can tell you that 40,000 of that was purely the landfill extra pages for a 6-month period when we were trying to push the expansion.
I know at one time we had the app, and I know we got rid of it, wasn't used very well. What was that, do you remember, was that like 7,000 a year?
It was
Yes.
10 grand a year, wasn't it?
No.
Seven sound right? And for the
Councilmember O'Neill's right. There was a setup fee.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
then the month, the
7,000.
yearly was 7, absolutely. Yep.
And
But
then,
you're right.
and there had 75 users,
Yes.
something like that.
Yep.
I don't think it was
It was less than
done
100.
properly. I don't think it was
Yeah,
utilized.
I don't think,
It
yeah,
was
I don't
po-
think,
It was basically a link to our website, is all it
yes.
was.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Has there been any thought given to improving our city website to where we can include,
I
you know,
did talk
stories
to,
like this?
yeah. I know Shane Harrison, worked with the company that, she's gone, but worked with the company with her website where she was at before, Flat Rock. And she's got some ideas, however, you know, we revamped in part of the expansion, the website at the landfill. And that was quite expensive when we did that.
Yeah.
But we knew it was gonna be, and if we wanna have a good website like that, cause that's a really robust website, I kinda got not a commitment or anything like that, I just sent it out to a couple companies, and it was over 50 grand to make it right.
Are these
Yeah.
US based or foreign?
US based. US based.
Our web sucks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my point, is
Our
that we're.
website needs to update.
It
So we
sucks.
pay, you know, 16 and a half,
15.
almost 17,000 a year for the paper. And I understand that, I understand that the app we had was 7K per year minus the setup costs, I get that.
Yep.
I guess my concern is, like Dean says, our website is horrible.
Bananas.
Yeah, it's that bad. I'm just curious on if there's ever been a discussion to, hey, look, let's make this more user-friendly. I've seen some government websites where you can navigate, it tells you everything that the Parks and Rec has, all the events the library has. I've seen some that are just, and of course, I left the list at home. I'm gonna send that to you guys so you guys can see how good they are, but we need to start looking at moving this into the, 20th century at least.
That's not the first time it's been addressed.
Yeah.
We've addressed that several times
Yeah.
and asked for it to be changed.
And
Several
it,
times.
yeah, it was a while ago, and
It's
they,
just-
and there was a massive cost, and obviously to improve, we all agree our website really needs the work done.
So is that what's been preventative, is the cost, the original setup cost, or?
I think it was just stuff getting done.
Is it done in-house through our IT department?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the maintenance, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But, I mean, I think your point is, I personally don't think that, however, when we get to our website too, it's actually, it's a usable site for information. I wouldn't consider that a replacement for the register. I mean, we do have a measurable amount of people who, like Zita said, that don't use the internet. And there's, you know, I don't know if they're mostly elderly or what, but there's a big contingency that is still going for the written media, I guess is what it comes down to.
I can understand that, I just doing my due diligence, I can understand that, going back, Go Big Multimedia has agreed not to raise rates for, what, 3 years?
Three more.
Three more years,
Yeah.
correct, so, I understand it's a good value. I guess what I'm curious about is, what worries me and what caught my eye, or ears tonight was Jeff saying that, look, we're still in crisis mode. And that scares the hell out of me.
But you people
Yeah.
are screaming transparency.
Mhm.
And you're screaming that nobody knows what's happening in the city. And you're
Yeah.
gonna take a paper that goes to every home and say, nope, not gonna do that anymore. Just trust us. Just watch it on TV. Not everybody watches it on TV. So if we're gonna be transparent, let's be transparent.
Can you get an example of
Yeah,
articles that
that's-
have been written of transparency?
Sure, all the stuff that's on, everything that goes on there.
Why don't
Who's gonna
we-
get that stuff? Who's gonna know what's going on? I mean, we have council people that instead of reading the iPad, they print everything. And these are young people,
No.
because they can't read it. I mean,
can.
and our website isn't up and working properly? I think we're putting the cart before the horse here.
Jeff, why don't we,
Yeah.
you guys can go take your seats if you don't mind. Let's invite Will up here. And-
Thanks, guys.
Because I
Oh,
think
you're welcome.
the best, if you guys have some questions, it's best, I mean, I don't know everything, Jeff knows everything. So if you have some questions, for Will,
Be an
but,
old lady and pick
yeah.
on me.
Well, it's true.
Should see all my Post-it notes at home on my desk.
You're that girl right now.
Totally, they're all different colors.
How are you?
So I don't know,
Hey,
Will, do you wanna make a statement first? I don't know what you know, some.
I just wanted to say, Your Honor, I appreciate this, that Will is willing to participate, and we can answer questions directly, but in my professional life, if I was negotiating or thinking about a contract or possibly terminating a contract, according to his statement, I would not invite the vendor to the table to have a discussion. They could be a part of, you know, the audience, but I find it difficult, no offense, Will, having open discussions with the vendor there. Would you invite another vendor if you're looking to cancel their contract to the table?
I would have to think if whatever the accusations are, we know there's a ton of them here. It doesn't matter to me if it's Carlisle Workman,
I don't think
Tetra
there's
Tech,
any
or
accusations,
the,
he's just looking at the
but-
feasibility of the cost.
And those are valid and good questions. And so I think he can answer best the cost, because I know there's some discrepancy on.
Well, the cost is clear, it's,
on-
you know,
If I could-
1376.
Yeah.
I think that's been clarified.
Yeah, at 9,000 units, it's
Yeah.
essentially $1.83
But I
per
think-
resident.
But I think the best is.
Which
just-
is a good cost, that's $1.83
Yeah,
per
I think a
resident
lot
for
of
a
the
year.
questions were
Yeah.
answered between Azita, she did a great job, and I
Mhm.
think Todd did a great job.
But I think
and the
what
cost was
council
a
doesn't
discuss-
know
I know,
is-
hold on a second.
Go
But
ahead.
I think that the cost was a great, you know, conversation, and I think everybody did a great job clarifying. And I think that that's what really these guys were kinda
Mhm.
hoping for, which is why we suggested putting it, so everybody could have a discussion. I don't know that it's a truly a will discussion. I think that everybody was very well clarified. I think everybody did a good job.
So I guess the only thing I'm curious about is, because what Andy just said was, there's a lot of accusations. There's no accusations. I'm curious about strictly the financial aspect of this is how, and I understand, if someone sends me articles and says, print this, and I'm gonna make money off printing that, you're damn right I'm gonna print those articles. So I understand, and I'm happy that there's stopgaps now. I understand that, but again, I come back to when Jeff says, you know, we're still in crisis mode, I wanna know exactly how this happened, because, you know, if I come up short on bills, I can't go to my neighbor and say, pay this. You know, and those were my main concerns, is that, I mean, I understand they're gonna pay up quarterly, I understand they got two years behind. I'm just looking at, how many contracts do we have like this that are not absolutely vital? You know, to Dean's point, saying we gotta be transparent. I have a hard time leaving this study session after hearing the city manager say, we are still in crisis mode, and then going and telling the residents, yeah, we're in crisis mode, but I still wanna keep all these extras. And that's my concern, is how many contracts, like, and no offense to Will, because he provides a service, like the register, that are not absolutely vital to the city, do we have? You know, how many contracts do we have? And granted, like you said, this is a very small amount of the budget. I understand that, and I agree with that. It's a small amount of the budget, but I have to go back and tell the people who elected me, we're not gonna talk about paid subscriptions to this service. we're not gonna cut out an extra, but here, I need you to pay me more money to keep the city running. I don't wanna see a cut in case we can't approve a millage or whatever. I don't wanna see a cut to our police department, I don't wanna see a cut to our fire department while we're still providing extras to the residents. I totally see your point. I wanna be transparent. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. This is why I reached out to the other members saying, what do you guys think? Because if we're in a crisis, we need to consider every option.
So just, you know, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the library and recreation can't, if you didn't get the 2 mills, those cuts wouldn't be enough.
You could close both of them down and it wouldn't make a difference.
But I think to
We'd still need the
Dave's
2 mills, is
point
what he's
is
saying.
that we need to make sure we're getting value.
Mhm.
And so we have to be critical where that money goes.
Absolutely.
So I think, Jeff, I think it's best that you had a will here is to help, at least, and explain to me too, the return we get for what it cost us. The return in the recreation programs and in the library programs.
Just to make the point though, both of the department heads said they don't have
They don't have-
palpable information on what the return is.
Well, because we didn't ask them to provide, I don't know if they have,
I don't think they could,
the,
right?
you know, you'd have to go back all the way before before 2017.
Okay,
on
that's
the
why I was
just
just curious how he has that
But
information.
from
about our-
myself, I go by, because I attend a lot of these events, I'm sorry, just don't want to shout, but, you know, we're going to try to do one at a time here, that, the attendance, especially at Summerfest and all these events and the concerts of art, have really gone up exponentially with the advertising in the paper. So, I mean, and unless they disagree with me, I mean, that's, the best is, you know, either Jeff or Will, just kind of explain the return we get for what we put in. Because I really think it's gonna impact the recreation programs and the library programs terribly if the paper goes away, our ads go away.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that
Do you have handouts
if you
for us?
don't, I'm so sorry?
Is that a handout?
Yeah.
More
We're gonna-
paper.
Yeah, we're
More
gonna show you
paper.
more.
Yay.
We are gonna show you more. But I'd like to begin with this, please. I believe I have a lot of facts here that is very pertinent information to what we do for Riverview and what Riverview receives as a benefit from the Riverview Register. And without these facts, I think you would be doing a disservice to your citizens who put you in those chairs to make decisions without being totally informed. Because there's been a lot, and I'll discuss this, a lot of rumors and a lot of information that has been out there that is not true. So, if you want me to speak now, happy to. But if you want me to speak in the public forum or the public time, I have a right, and I will do that then. But I believe that this is important to you. So I will be talking about good and bad subjects. First, the good about Riverview Register. And here comes the hands out. Okay, would you mind please passing these around? I think we'll go this way.
I think that's it.
That's what I do.
There you go. Okay, we're not going through, oh, I'm sorry.
I still
here.
have mine.
Oh,
From when I
yeah.
placed that in your paper.
Follow us with us, please.
It's in my bag, okay.
Okay. We're not going through this whole thing, but just the facts. Up here at the very top, our advertisers are so happy with their results, 80% renewed another 6-month agreement. And the other 20% are many are seasonal businesses that said that they would be back. That speaks volumes as to the result of the return on investment. Very happy clients. What does that mean? That means readership. That means the results. These businesses wouldn't continue to write a check month after month, year after year, 5 years after 5 years, and decades after decades, unless they got what? Results. That's because these publications work. How we do it different, so much different than anybody else, this is where your facts come in. We are, number one, a multimedia news magazine where we are online, where you could read it at any time, and you go to our website, and here's the Riverview Register, and you turn the pages, And you can read it from your laptop, desktop, anywhere, anytime. We cover all generations. In this day and age, you have to be a digital publication as well. That's what we do. We also do social media marketing. Constant and continuous posting of events and advertisers driving more readers means more results. Go to our Riverview Register Facebook page. You will see all kinds of posts that we pull from the city of Riverview, as well as the Recreation Department, Police Department, Fire Department, etc. And we share all that because we have a working agreement with you. 100% direct mail to all the homes. It's in every mailbox. It's on every single kitchen table, where everybody becomes informed, and even potential customers in the library, recreation, and all your events. We're 100% direct mail to all the businesses, where all the thousands of employees become potential customers for the events and the recreation department and the library. And we're on news rack and countertop distribution, high traffic stores and restaurants in several locations, almost 60 locations within the city itself. And with our custom tall news racks, these things are flying off the shelves. Fact, the Riverview Register is good news to bring to more people and our businesses to our city, to bring more businesses to our city, not negative like any other newspapers or media. Fact, the Register spotlights the city as a great place to live and enjoy the amenities and the events. It's not just full of unicorns. Fact, news from our neighbors. News from our neighbors, we just started 2 years ago, no extra charges, but this is where in all of our publications, we will put snippets of what's happening within the other cities, and such as like our Riverview events. Now goes into Grozio Grand, Trenton Times, Southgate Star, Wyandotte Warrior. We have a grand total circulation of over 700,000 per year. That's what we help bring in to the bullseye of downriver, which is Riverview. Fact, comics page. We were actually ridiculed on a Facebook where we can't fill the paper. We have to put a comics page on there. Well, professionally speaking, if you know anything about it, this is through a California syndicate. You actually have to be approved to publish comics. Archie, DC, we had to send in all of our distribution, our proof of mailings, and all of our information that proves that we are, you almost gotta be the Washington Post to publish Archie and BC. That's a feather in our cap. That's huge. Fact, at the city's request, we have published Front Page, which is our oceanfront property, stories at no extra premium charge gifted to the city. And let's address some of the elephants in this room. In the past year, it was election year, and we as Go Big Multimedia and all of our publications and all of our other cities have gone through years and many elections and have never been treated like this, except for this one in Riverview. Fact, all candidates were eligible to advertise their campaigns in a Riverview Register. Fact, no candidate was ever denied to advertise. Fact, 2 years ago, we sponsored the Meet the Candidate Forum, and it was a great success. Fact, 2 years this year, we sponsored the Meet the Candidate Forum, and with the same successful format, equal to all candidates, and then we were accused of blatant lies and accused of BS questions asked. Accused of being biased? Not. We knew a candidate was under investigation for election fraud and still is, and putting that on Front Page could have ruined the election for him. Biased? Not. The mayor stopped a 4 mil tax increase just before the general election. We could have put that on the Front Page and we could have helped him in the election. We did not. Biased? Not. Knowing of some of the misdemeanor and criminal records of the candidates, we never published them, and that could have ruined their election. Fact. Go Big Multimedia did the exact same format of publishing questions and answers by all candidates as we did 2 years ago. and even 4 years ago for the elections. We have always been fair to all concerned, not biased. Fact, we have over 300 posts and videos of blatant lies, slander, defamation of character, attempted character assassination from many
I don't
who
mean to interrupt.
participated in.
Where is this going?
This is going into my facts.
This wasn't even, the
This
agenda
is
wasn't even
supposed to
on.
be about
This is a
financial
sales-
questions, and this is.
Come on.
This isn't what this was about.
The
I
Riverview
think the point
Register
is that
is
he's
good for
trying to
our city.
justify what
No,
helped
I
you
know,
here.
but we
Hold on,
got a
hold
lot
on.
of
I
that
like the
information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think that's what we were talking about.
To-
Like, I
to
wasn't trying
continue.
Right.
We're
No,
talking,
To
hold
continue,
on.
Let him
we don't need
finish.
to sales.
To continue.
He's past his 5
The
minutes.
Riverview Register is good for our city, totally. It has been posted.
If you
The
have
fact,
grievances,
the city-
and I don't mean
Dave,
to interrupt.
we have to
hold
have some
on.
quorum here, so, and I think.
But this is
If I
becoming
may
a
have the
speech.
floor, please.
Go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
No, I mean,
Fact, the city of
We're
Riverview
talking-
publishing contract equals only 2.5% of Go Big Multimedia's business. Only 2.5% of our entire business. It's been rumored that without this Riverview agreement, Riverview Register would go out of business. That's a lie. Fact, personally, I don't need this contract. I am 63 and a half years old. It will not change my retirement. Fact, the city side of this agreement is a base rate of $1,376 a month.
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
Minus cost of goods leaves us with a razor-thin margin. We at Go Big Multimedia, for investigative journalism, would like to know how many of the 445 vendor contracts invoices for your review will be discussed in a live study session or a live council meeting. Over 51%, that's 227. How many are we gonna be looking at?
Prior to you making these comments, if you were listening, I just asked Jeff how many contracts we have just like this. No, and I'm not trying to interrupt you again, but I would like to point out, I understand you're bringing up Facebook grievances and so on. I understand that. I understand you're telling us how great Go Big Media is. I understand the sales pitch. I get all that. This has nothing, the conversation that you're having right now has nothing to do with the register.
Yes, it does. It has a build-up to it, sir.
Okay,
And
well, just
so
1 second. I
everybody's
see that you
been-
have multiple pages. I'm just trying to get to the heart of this.
It is.
This is, again, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just you have multiple pages there. I'm trying to save us all time. Contracts like we have with the register, and no one right now is talking about getting rid of the register. I'm surprised at where this is going.
I am surprised we're over months and months and months of conversations and Facebook posts brings me to this table where I would have just this much time to talk about the features, advantages, and benefits and what we have done. I am building up to a fact of what we have done for the city that you don't even know about, sir.
I understand that.
And I think
I'm
it's
just
very
trying
important for
to-
the citizens to know that as
And
well,
I
too.
understand that, and I'm gonna let you get to it. But
Thank
what
you.
I'm trying to explain to you is
But
where we're going with this
We will let him
is-
get to it, just so we're all on the same page. We will let him get to it. I don't think you're running this meeting.
You're absolutely right. I'm not, but this is not.
You're making some good points. So I think hopefully you're gonna get to is
Yep.
the financial part of the
Yes.
benefit. I mean, maybe that's what.
That's what I'm
parts
trying to get
I don't
to.
know.
Yes, it is.
And okay, good idea. So, and I'm sure that's the crescendo here.
So, fact, if we cancel this agreement, if we cancel this agreement, then and when the city of Riverview needs items published, it will be at our open rate of $1,040 per page, not at the discount contract rate that we have given the city of Riverview.
That was
That-
for a full page?
Yep, $1,040.
And how much for a half page?
$540, quarter page is $280, eighth of a page is $140.
And what are we paying right now, if you don't mind me asking?
$13.76 a month.
No, I understand
For
that, but
2.5.
if we break it up, is that just the base rate, 16?
What was the page?
We're paying $540 a page for
Yes.
two and a
Okay,
half pages.
that's what I'm asking.
Just to clarify, if for some reason the contract were to get canceled and we purchased ads, could you still buy it 6 months bulk? I think there's discounted rates
No.
for purchasing
I
in
won't
6,
do it.
so that won't be offered to the city. Okay,
Yes.
just want to make that clear for everybody, that would take it off
Because
the
it's
table.
one at a time. You
Right.
don't know what you're gonna be running in 6 months.
Isn't it placing ads though?
It's, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how many you're doing or how many size. So others are on the single rate program. And this will probably answer some of your questions too, please. There was, this is a comment on my part, there was a comment from a past politician that we lost contracts with other cities. That never happened. Fact, another publishing company was publishing Trenton information and recreation, and it wasn't working out. Even, they missed several mailings, and the mailings was late. Over a year ago, we won that contract and even have testimonial letter on how great Trenton Times is working for them with great success and results. That's pertinent to you to know what your sister cities are doing and how that's working for them. Fact, again, another publishing company was publishing the Grozeel information and recreation, and it too wasn't working out, even with several mailings that was months late. And over a year ago, we won that contract, and it's working great for them.
Okay.
Fact.
We have one conversation.
No, this is.
Trenton, Grozeel,
David,
Southgate,
come on.
Wyandotte.
No, I'm serious.
Fact, in the $12 million budget with Riverview, the register represents
Dave, I
1/10.
Well, I'm sorry, if you're upset, can you keep it down or leave?
No,
please?
this is what we do,
Okay,
we're talking amongst ourselves.
No, we're listening to the gentleman now,
Listen,
and
when we're
whatever's
out there,
making a
this is what we do.
presentation. Let's give him some respect, please.
We're here to discuss a basic.
This is all pertinent to
thing,
the
and this is-
contract,
This is
I
not.
believe.
I didn't.
Go ahead, Will.
All right, well, I guess.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Finish, go ahead, do what you gotta do.
Come on, Dave.
Yeah, just.
Come on, Dave. All right. You
Can
can.
we get this up? Get it on.
We're
I'm
getting
saying
there.
we're-
he's almost
This
done.
is, we're getting.
Yeah, he's,
I know. Go ahead.
You're making it look like
No,
something
wait.
it's not.
I already brought that up.
yeah.
The fact is, in the $12 million budget with the Riverview, the register represents 0.1%. Fact, the base rate for the city's share is $13.76, divided by 9,000 in distribution equals only to 15.5 cents each for all that we do for you.
Could you just clarify that, please?
Yes, please.
So it's $13.76 per month, distributed to 9,000 residents.
Our 9,000 is within all of this. This is within the direct mail to the homes, apartments, condos, 100% direct mail to all the businesses, and news rack and countertop distribution.
So 9,000 is the total distribution for
Oh, I thought that
Riverview.
was 700,000 circulation population.
Rita, that's with all of our publications, all of them, Trenton Times, Grozeel,
Okay.
Brand, everything. Yeah, there's not 700,000
I-
within the city.
That's what I was
Good
gonna ask
question,
once
good
you were
clarification,
finished.
though.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
But that doesn't also include all the gazillion hits and clicks that we get on the, gazillion's a number.
Thank you, I wanted to
Okay.
clarify that once you were complete.
So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to finish that thought, because that's what I'm about, I just want to understand the numbers, okay?
Yes, sir. And it's,
So if it's.
numbers don't lie.
Right, 16,512 annually, correct?
Correct.
Just for the city's portion.
Wait.
Yes.
So it's
I'm not saying correct,
1376
I didn't do
times
a
12.
calculator.
I do, it's right here.
Thank you.
16,512, correct?
Okay.
And
That's
if you
just
divide
the
that
city's
by,
portion.
yeah, divided by the 9,000 distributions, each paper for the whole year is $1.83
I have
Per resident.
1370.
per 9,000 distributions, because it's
I
not
have the
going
same
to
number.
just the residents, it's going to the paper racks, it's going to,
I have 1376 divided by 9,000 equals 15.2888 cents each.
per paper, and multiply that times 12. Should be 183,
Oh, annual cost.
yes.
Yes, sir. $1.83
Good.
each.
Thank
All
you.
three of us had the same numbers?
That's all.
Must
All
be
right,
good.
okay, go ahead.
So it's 15.5 cents each.
Mhm.
And now what you don't know is what we have gifted back to the city of Riverview was over $26,000. The city of Riverview complimentary pages. In June of 2021, we did complimentary, I'm gonna go through each month, $5,504. In July 21, $1,892. $0 in August, $0 in September, $1,720 in October of 2021, $0 in November 2021, $1,720 in December, $344 in January of 22, $172 in February of 22, $3,784 in March 22, $4,816 in April, $2,080 in May, and $4,128 in June. That's 26,160 total complimentary pages from June 21 through June of 22. And what I would like to know is what other vendor have gifted back to the city of Riverview over $26,000.
Well, thank you.
You're very
Those are
welcome, ma'am.
appreciated.
Very welcome. My building is here. I own my building. I employ Riverview residents. We do a lot for Riverview. We walk for fire for Riverview. We go to the four corners of the compass for Riverview. In fact, in last January, I stood in council chambers and I offered no price increase, and this is what I said. We've been publishing the Riverview Register with good information for the last 5 years. Before you tonight is a proposal for a 3-year extension to work together with the city and Riverview schools with no price increase. That means since 2018 through 2026, the prices will remain the same. And I bet no one and no other company has not asked for a price increase in such a long tenure of time. We've been proud to publish a multimedia newspaper that is direct mailed free of charge to every home and apartment, condo and business in the city of Riverview. Plus news rack distribution, a multimedia digital version of the Riverview Register where you could read it at any time. We have published hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Riverview articles, notices, events, and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, financially, the bottom line is we help the city save money and increase revenue with legal notices, legal bids, water notices, employment notices, city notices, DPW notices, fire department notices, police department notices. Also, the library and their events have increased participation, which equals to a higher revenue stream. Also, the recreation department and their events have increased participation, which equals to a higher revenue streams. These are just some of the examples, whereas we help the city save money and increase the revenue for operating costs, excuse me, operating costs to provide great services and events to the citizens of Riverview without raising their taxes to compensate for the same aforementioned benefits. The exact same reasoning and results happen to the city of Riverview schools by publishing their good news, events, notices, and information. Thank you very much for consideration this evening, and look forward to professionally working with all of you and our citizens.
All right, do you have any questions for Will before we dismiss him?
No,
We can continue our discussion.
Numbers are clear, right?
All right.
Very well.
Yes, I have not raised the prices. In fact, my fault. Let's talk about that for a second. My fault. Since we started this, we've had price increase and price increase, and then after COVID, we've had even more price increase. And then last January, when I offered no price increase for the next 3 years, just 2 days ago, we got another, last year, there was unforeseen price increases. That had happened. And just 2 days ago, we got another postage increase.
Can I ask a question?
But in conclusion, yes,
Go
sir,
ahead, go ahead.
I'll answer. My last statement was fact. Despite all these price increases and even the recent unforeseen price increases, which is my fault, I will still be a man of my word and continue the same agreement. That was for a grand total of 7 years without a price increase. What other vendor has done that for the city? We have. Thank you.
Councilman Bray.
What I was just about to ask you, so, well, I appreciate you not increasing the prices. I understand you're getting higher costs. Is Riverview the only city you did that for, or did you do that for other cities as well?
Give them a price increase?
Yeah, I'm asking if other cities are paying more than we are.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Hey, okay, go ahead.
Mayor, just a question. Just thinking back to when there were problems over the election period, an attorney came in and represented you and made some statements, and kind of hearing echoing statements in your feedback to the council. If the contract is canceled, it sounds like we can continue as a customer paying full price, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you made some allusions about the contract. As I understand the contract, it says with 30 days notice it can be terminated. Is there any plans on Go Big Media to sue the city if we terminate the contract?
I would not talk about possible litigation.
Okay.
But I think that to your point too is, I think, just so everybody knows, that's in all of our contracts.
Every
Every one of
single
them is
one
like that,
has
so,
that.
yes, there's nothing unique about that.
For the termination or?
Correct.
Yeah, every city contract.
So now Will did bring
Some
up-
can be longer than 30, some can be 60 or 90.
But we have some
But there
way,
is a
some out in
there is a
everyone.
termination to every city
That's our
contract.
starting point, yeah,
Yes.
30.
They make
Because
sure
there's
we
some
have
of
an out
that
in
are
every
more,
contract
they're more
on our
critical
cities.
services to the city, so they can't be 30. It would take 60 to 90 to replace that service. So I'm just saying that.
I'm not getting the feeling it's based upon the contract, it's based upon statements that were made by people that are now on council.
Any
That's
other-
my feeling, or I'm reading between the lines in his statements.
Gotcha.
You want to elaborate on that, Brian?
From your statements about face-back feedback and statements during the council meetings, to me, it sounded like because of the statements that were made, just using Dave as an example, that because he's now sitting on the board and representing the decision of the city, or one of the people has the opportunity to make the decision about your contract, is if the contract were to get terminated by a vote of the total council, that you're in disagreement or begrudged by Dave's statements prior and would take action.
No comment at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. What's left?
Well, we need to know what direction do we want to go from here with this?
So, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm looking for some direction.
All right, so for myself, and look, I'll be honest, I don't know if Will was told, hey, come here and fight for your contract. I don't know what he was told the purpose of this conversation was going to be. But speaking with other council members, and the reason for communicating the request to have these conversations was purely a fiscal conversation. Now, with Mr. Evans bringing up, oh, these people made comments on Facebook and whatnot, this conversation was supposed to be based around primarily why the city was covering the school for 2 years and paying their bills. That was where the primary concern was, and I'm just now learning that they're gonna be paying quarterly to pay us back. I was just informed that we had different department heads sending articles in for publication. So while Mr. Evans is welcome to, make comments about not being happy with whether it's me or anybody else on Facebook, making comments, that's fine. But this conversation and the whole sales pitch, I think, were unnecessary. This conversation was supposed to be about if we're in crisis mode, what contracts, like the Riverview Register, because you guys are the most visible, do we have that are not essential? And with him mentioning how many contracts we have with the city, we need to start looking at every contract. Obviously, the Register is the most visible. If we're paying, you know, $16,000, almost $17,000 a year, we need to look at how many contracts we have before we go to the residents and say, give us more money while we also pay for extras. That was the entire point of this conversation.
That was my understanding.
Your Honor?
That's the way the conversation was supposed to happen
One at a
tonight.
time, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm just answering Dave, you know, everybody who saw the emails going around with people asking questions, this was supposed to be a conversation about our budget. This was supposed to be, where can we cut services without cutting essential services? Now, I'm all for it. Let's look at every contract. I am all for that. I trust Jeff to do his job. If Jeff says he went and overturned every stone, and this is the, you know, this is what we're left with, then so be it. But if you guys, you know, if all of us want to sit around this table and look at every contract, I'll set aside a weekend. You guys let me know. I don't have a problem with that. I trust Jeff to do his job. But again, this conversation was supposed to be about the financials.
And obviously, well, I'll let Rita go first, go ahead.
I think, I just wanted to say the reason that this was put on a study session was because we're asking people for more money.
Exactly.
So we're just going through, because if in my household, if something happens and we have a mortgage payment that we're not going to make, we're not going out to eat, we're not going to the trampoline park, we're not doing extras. So I think that was the overview of, we just want to make sure this is best for the city. I mean, honestly, clearly, I read the Riverview Register. It comes to my house in my mailbox. I'm flipping through it. I am old-fashioned that way, and I enjoy it. But just because I enjoy it doesn't mean we have to keep it. That's why we're having this discussion. Let's make sure each thing that we are spending money on is something that's good for the city. That's all I think this was.
And I think to your point is, and I think that's a good idea to scrutinize all of them.
Absolutely.
To look at it, but part of that measure has to be is, you know, what's our return on it? So I think if we cancel this register, you're just cutting off your nose to spite your face.
$2 million gas plan for $186,000.
Well, and you'll go ahead and criticize all that stuff.
I'm sorry, not
But
criticize, I'm just
we get
saying,
it.
we're to that point.
I get it.
We're to that
So
point.
we'll have to, you know, we have to look at all these things. But we have to be smart about it. And I'll still say, the return we get from the register more than pays for itself in the activities that we get and the good news. And you talk about transparency, because that seems to be the key word anymore. What is it that council doesn't want the people to know? I mean, I'll just reverse it how it's been in the past. Why don't we want to have this information in the paper? Why don't we, what's gonna go away first is the minutes. I know we've had plenty of discussions on, should we publish the minutes or not? Is the website good enough? Well, that's how a good majority of the people find out what's going on. So you got the minutes, you got any other notices, and from what I would expect is, say the contract goes away and, you know, it's whoever's back its skin off of, we still have to use it. We still have to use the register to get those ads out there. I mean, you look at the readership of the News Herald or, you know, the other paper online, or the Dun River Sunday Times, whatever it is. It's got a circulation of 20, I think, the News Herald in the city. So it's just, the written version is not available to the public. So I think, and then going into every home, and that's a benefit. And I think I've said it before, is the participation we get from the people seeing that, we're gonna lose that if it goes away. I'm honestly think that it's just gonna go away. So, I mean, we have to look at the return when we do every contract, I think that's perfect. So, but along with that has to be the evaluation. I don't know if you ask, you know, Will to be here or Will ask me here, I don't know. But each person has to provide what value do we get? So, and like I said, it's 1/10 of 1% of our budget, so it
So maybe
makes-
we start at the top and work our way.
Well, yeah, maybe you go for a higher return, but, we also, like I said before, we just gotta look at what do we get out of it? And I think between us and schools, we get a tremendous amount of return or value for that. So I think and how do we get the word out? You know, if we got this public safety millage, we're gonna need the paper, you know, to get that word out. If we're gonna start and get some activity on the Arkema property, we're gonna need the paper to get that word out. And I get it, people can read it online, and that may be, but a significant number of people, you know, want the printed version. So it's kind of, you know, my impact on it.
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
I know it was a discussion, the agenda was not on the, website today.
Mhm.
So I do appreciate the very scripted dialogue that we had here. I also read the Register, but, I'm with Dave. I mean, we really gotta look at all the extras. I don't really think it was, I don't really think the attention was brought because they don't do their job and whatnot. I think it was more of the extras versus the
needs and wants.
The needs and wants.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and all due respect to Will, I understand for whatever reason you were told something to be here, and again, very well scripted, so be it. This was supposed to be about financials, it sounds like it's very personal. You bringing up former politicians, to me, it just didn't make sense. But you are absolutely correct on one thing, while all of us trust Jeff to do his job, if we need to start looking at every single contract, that's so be it,
We'll
you
do
know?
what we have to do.
Well, and I guess.
Until
the
we're
point
out of
was-
crisis
yeah.
mode, you know,
And
if.
You mentioned earlier about a bunch of emails going back and forth about the paper. I haven't received one email from council questions about the Register. Just the original one where you guys asked that it be put on the agenda.
Which
That's-
was right.
that was the one I'm referring to.
Yeah, there was
With-
too much going back and forth, and it just needed to be,
that-
get it all out and
I
get it all
believe there was
straight.
at least 4 or 5 that you were attached to, that.
And with relation to the Register?
But
Yes.
it ended with, let's just put it on this.
To have the
Oh,
conversation.
It was
okay. All right, got it.
Those are
Not
the only
separate.
emails that went on, that's why I'm asking. And I'm happy to pull up the email.
No, I got it, Susan cleared it up.
I caution
Mayor.
council,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're not supposed to
I
be
understand
doing
that.
that, am I correct?
Yes.
Wait and
I.
say it.
Well,
you
that's
don't-
why I said- that's
You
why I
don't see
said-
me responding on any of that.
Well, that's why I said let's have it on a study session and have the conversation, which is why.
Your Honor, I got a question. Councilman Webb, what did you refer to me selling the gas plant or something like that? And you just said it at the end there, that you said, yeah, like selling the gas plant for $187,000 when we bought it for some dollar amount?
2 million.
For
It
$1.3 million.
wasn't directed to you.
Well, it was.
a
You looked
decision
at-
we all made.
No, but you looked at me and you said that. Now,
Because we were having the conversation. It wasn't-
absolutely, and you know what? I've been in business.
I'm not
I've been
referring
in,
to you
just
directly.
let me finish. I've been in business for 17 years, made money every year, and here's the deal, right? You make money 2 ways. You increase revenue, you decrease costs. When we're in crisis mode, we gotta do that, both at the same time, to get out of that. We're spending money, we're gonna have to put money into maintenance of that plant. On
Exactly.
top of that, it was a good deal to get out from that and get that gas into the royalties.
But was it
So-
a good deal spending the 2 million on it in the first place? And that's not your
I
responsibility.
know.
Well,
Right,
but,
that was
but
the
here,
point.
but here we go, we keep going back, 5
Okay.
years ago, what did you guys, you have to remember, gas was what, $4 or $5 a gallon at the time?
I
Cannot
just-
fix
we're
the past.
going
We can't, we gotta go forward.
Yeah.
Here's where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was talking about
Yeah.
revenue. It's
Yes.
$186,000 revenue. That's
Yeah,
good.
It is great, and it's in
Okay,
the books.
it isn't as good as the $2 million that we spent, we're never gonna
Whoa, whoa,
recoup
whoa,
that.
wait
He
a
didn't
minute.
finish my point though, because he's
Let-
attacking
let-
me saying.
I'm not
Can we have one
attacking you.
conversation here,
Are
please?
we really?
Can we have one conversation?
But I'm not
Please,
attacking-
let's
this
show
is
some
what-
respect
the
to
tone-
each
the
other.
tone came
Brian,
as
go ahead.
You were
Yeah, Brian.
dissatisfied
Dave,
saying that
please.
I was challenging you
You want-
about
wanna
the
keep
sale
it
of
going?
the property, the gas plant, right? Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Then I'm-
Was your tone directed to me that you're not satisfied with me asking about your?
Yeah, well, the
You-
timing
no, I was
too.
directing it to you.
Yeah, and the timing. You
Okay.
said, yeah, it's not fair for us to have to sell this gas plant
I didn't
in
say that.
$187,000 when it, you know,
I said
costs
it's
us
not a
what?
good deal.
Okay,
No, look,
okay, I'm done.
Look,
What I'm
that
doing.
was, that was misspoken, let me finish, that was misspoken, it's not a good, compared to the $2 million that we spent, getting a $186,000 return is not good. I didn't say, I said deal, but I didn't mean you did a bad job at doing the deal, okay? I just meant exactly what I just said. $186,000 compared to the $2 million that we spent, okay? That's all I'm comparing.
Your Honor,
Go
you're
ahead.
being critical of what happened in the past without the facts. The facts are that we had a gas problem at that time, and we would have made a ton of money if we'd have done that, if that would have continued, but it changed. So now you're sitting here, looking backwards, going, I wouldn't have done that. That's what you're doing.
I didn't
That's
say
exact.
that.
No, that's what you're inferring.
No, no, it's not what I'm inferring.
Why did we spend $2 million?
Right.
I
I'm
just
saying-
told you why.
Okay.
So quit criticizing.
But is that a good revenue generation
It is,
return on
we got
on
out of a
investment?
problem.
Okay.
How many problems have you dealt with and got out of them? You sit there judgmental like that. You know, I'm just getting tired of this crap. I really am.
Okay, and it's all me, but we're way off topic.
Yeah, it is you right now.
Well, at the end of the day, here's what I'm gonna close
All
with.
right.
What I'm trying to do.
Other business.
Your Honor, all I'm trying to do, Your
Call
Honor,
the meeting.
is I'm trying to do the best I can for the city.
And Jeff,
I
you're
love
doing good.
Riverview. You know, I hope
I
it
don't
gets
doubt
developed,
that.
I hope it
Yeah.
gets developed and there's condos on Grange, cause I wanna move to Riverview.
Woo.
And so, but you know what? I'm dealt this hand and I'm dealing with the hand I'm dealt, and that's what I have to work with. So if you're not gonna support me along the way, then why do I wanna work?
Because
I
of
mean,
one comment, all right.
no,
So I don't
but,
support you.
no, but you know what you could do is, if you're really that upset about it, just call me up, we'll talk about it. Jeff, I don't really think this was a good idea. And then I can explain to you what happened in the past and why it's a good idea. Because we're gonna be putting more money into it just to maintain something that we're not getting any
I
revenue
understand,
from.
that's why I voted on it, I understand that.
Okay, okay.
That's why I voted
Very
in
good.
favor.
One last comment.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You know what, this is gonna be our first budget together, and when I've been through many boards and many councils, you don't know until you sit through those budget study sessions. And that tells you the whole story, because it's always follow the money. And once we do that, you guys will get everything that's going on and have major impact in those budgets. So I think we're doing a lot of before we get to the budget and the audit, and you're gonna see, this is how every line item is gonna get discussed, and that tells you how we're gonna run the city for the next year. And that's coming, so we're all premature just a little bit, but all that's coming. I've been there, I've done working with 20 boards in my time, so.
Yeah, okay.
it
Yeah, we
will
need,
come.
we need to find out if there's
Because
any,
of the highly
thank you.
charged topic, this is why I suggested that we don't invite the vendor to the table. And I just wanna say, if we go forward looking at other vendors, I would ask specifically that we don't allow them to sit at the table. If they wanna give their comments during the connotations, section, that's fine.
Very well.
No disrespect.
Noted. It's noted.
Okay.
It
Any-
got us
noted.
completely
Any other
away.
business?
It got us completely away from what we came here to talk about. It flipped the entire room over.
I took
And
an
I
oath
feel
to
like
set
we
aside my
wasted
personal feelings to
40
do what's
minutes on
best for
nothing.
the city,
Absolutely.
okay?
Okay.
So,
So whether or not I like the register, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's what it's costing the city, what we need to save, and as Andy said, the value. That's what each one of us have to weigh for
Correct.
ourselves.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Okay.
so I would
Go ahead.
like to just
Go ahead.
end this with, as was pointed out, the agenda was not posted online.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Missed by an employee, and we fix that.
Not an issue.
We fix that.
That's not my point. So what I'm saying is that, because there was, and I heard a whole speech when I came in saying, you know, when we have issues, we bring it up in council, or we bring it behind closed doors so nobody's getting surprised. The entire point of my original email to talk about specifically the register was looking at this from a financial aspect.
Mhm.
Somebody at this table obviously contacted Will and said he was gonna be attacked tonight. Now, if you felt attacked, I apologize. I'll make that apology that for whatever reason you felt attacked. This was supposed to be purely the financials. So my point, to piggyback off of Brian, bringing the vendor to the table was not a brilliant idea. This should not have gone this way. And in my opinion, is what exactly caused this entire meeting to break down. To me, this entire evening is embarrassing, and I'll leave it at that.
Any other business before we get to public comment? Okay, now it's time for public comment. Are you sure?
Thank you.
Oh, well, we'll just comment, because.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Good night.
Thank you. But we did get Mr. Conlon's email, that, yeah,
Yes.
the agenda wasn't published.
Correct.
And so.
Found that out.
That was our mistake.
My mistake.
Oh, it wasn't about
So-
the agenda,
so-
it was the fact that somebody at this table contacted Will and said, hey, this is on the agenda, make sure you're prepared.
Mhm.
That's my issue, and that's fine, you know, I'll just say, I'll leave it there.
Can I just ask, since we have.
Well,
Ken-
this is public comment, voice, but.
Well, we already brought up Ken in his email. He asked also, in continuation, when the audit committee is going to meet. Do we know this yet?
And
He
that
said
was
the third week, he's trying to get those.
third week of January.
We're
Okay.
wrapping
Do
up
we know
some
yet
stuff.
when the quarterly budget will be?
Oh, yeah.
revealed?
Yeah, the next
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah.
Next meeting, it'll be attached to the next meeting agenda.
Okay, and then he made, and looked like the mayor took heed to that, allowing the staff to leave after their special project reports instead
Yep.
of staying for the totals.
Yep.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Of course.
Okay.
But we didn't need Mr. Conlon to suggest that, that was always the plan.
That was the
But
plan from
He
before.
reinforced it.
Okay, I'm just bringing up his emails.
Okay, go ahead.
Jared Coyne, 18160 Brentwood Drive. So.
Okay, it works.
Oh, well, you guys can hear me anyway.
In fact, I was gonna sit down and talk, it's not a bigger chamber. So, you all gotta learn to work together.
There's a learning curve.
This
Okay,
is,
it's not a conversation, then. Okay, thank you.
there's a hierarchy going on, I see. From where I'm sitting, you're all not treated equally. There's 7 of you, right? The city set up as a weak mayor, you're all supposed to be equal from where I'm sitting. I'm not seeing that, people being shot down, people talking over each other. The city is in trouble, I've been saying that, months now, maybe even a couple of years now. This whole state's in trouble, but whatever. Not much that we can do about that, but from what I saw about the paper, you're right, it is only, however, what, $60,000 tops when you add the school in. But clearly I was at the meeting when the lawyer threatened people over your Facebook page. And you have a First Amendment right to do that. And that's what makes this country great. That's one of the things about the Bill of Rights that makes this place great, unlike all the other crap places around this planet. So, shame on them for threatening you, and yes, there were threats tonight, and shame on him for that too. That's a bunch of crap. If you're gonna have a paper, you might as well open it up to bids, let other papers also bid on it. But I mean, threatening you guys, bullying you like it's a schoolyard from where I'm sitting, honestly, like, I love living here, but right now, this place looks like a joke.
Thank you. Anybody else? That's it.
Meeting over.
All right.